Hey everybody, it looks like we are ready to get started. We do have a quorum, and so I'll go ahead and call the August 5th City Council meeting to order, 6:02 p.m. Annalise Brown is in the control tower in the back for us this evening. Thank you, Ms. Brown. And before we get started, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you very much. And thanks, folks, for joining us. I know it's a pretty beautiful evening out there tonight. So we will go ahead and do a roll call, if you would, Ms. Brown.
Roll call tonight. Starting with Stacie Anderson.
I don't see her. She's on
Mirtha
her way.
Becerra.
Okay.
Thank you.
Present.
Bob Campbell.
Here.
Daniel Carlino.
Present.
Sierra Farmer.
Present.
Gwen Jones.
Present.
Kirsten Jordan.
Present.
Eric Melson.
Present.
Mike Nugent.
Present.
Jennifer Savage.
Present.
Amber Sherrill.
Present.
And Sandra Vasecka.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Brown. We don't have any approval of minutes tonight, so moving on to item number 3 is announcing any changes to our committee schedule. We have a committee schedule for August 7th, 2024. Are there any known changes to our committee schedule?
We do not have a change to the committee schedule, but there is an update to item 8.5 in the consent agenda.
Great. Would you go ahead? Would you like to list that now or wait till we get to item 8?
Sure, we can wait until the consent agenda. It's just the item name changed, the title.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll make sure that we note that. Okay. All right, not seeing any changes to committee schedule, then folks can find the committee schedule for City Council August 7th online and all of the corresponding materials. Next, we'll move on to special presentations and proclamations. Tonight, we do have a neighborhood council update from the Upper Rattlesnake Council, which is wonderful. And before we get started with that, I'll mention that tonight is the start of the public hearing process for fiscal year 2025 City of Missoula budget. So we'll launch into that. On the agenda, you'll see a whole host of public hearings that are required as part of our opening of our public hearing process. Our budget process, we will have an open public hearing for about 2 weeks. There'll be plenty of opportunity. We'll make sure we outline those for you and ways to provide your input throughout the process. So before we get started with that, though, without much ado, I would love to be able to invite the Upper Rattlesnake Council member up who is here from the leadership team and ready to provide an update. If you will, say your name and spell your last name, please. Come on up to the microphone here.
Good evening to the members of the council and to my fellow Missoulians. My name is Andrea Sterle. The last name is spelled Stierle. And I've been a member of the team for a few terms now. Should I proceed with the report?
Please do. Thank you.
Our Upper Rattlesnake team has been very busy addressing items of safety and neighborhood participation. So to that effect, in conjunction with the Lower Rattlesnake leadership team, we held a joint neighborhood general meeting focused on emergency evacuation, procedures, and preparedness last April 2024. There were nearly 300 neighbors attending that meeting, partly because we served bridge pizza. The Office of Emergency Management from Missoula County presented 3 potential emergency evacuation scenarios and actions that might need to be taken if there is an emergency. The Upper Rattlesnake Leadership Team is also planning our annual genuine meeting and ice cream social. This is one of our commitments to bringing more of our neighbors to our meetings by offering ice cream. This will be held on Wednesday, August 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. in Pineview Park. There will be presentations about being bear aware, about bicycle safety, various transportation projects, the Office of Community Management, Emergency Management, and Community Emergency Response, or CERT. The team will provide 125 free ice cream cones to the first attendees. We hope to spread helpful information to neighbors and continue to build connections to our community. The leadership team has also heard a proposal for a pickleball court in Pineview Park. We are working with a particular neighbor who has been doing outreach to gather feedback and support from other neighbors. We will be bringing this proposal to the general meeting to continue to gather feedback to make sure that all interested parties are heard and responded to. The Rattlesnake Transportation Committee brought a proposal to the Upper Rattlesnake Leadership Team for transportation safety improvement recommendations for the area of the newly upgraded Syringa Bike Skills Park. The leadership team endorsed the recommendations as outlined in the report. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Any questions this evening? Any comments? That was a very thorough report. Very much appreciate that. Do I have your last name right? Did you say Sterling?
Sterling, correct.
Sterling. Okay, great. Thank you for an incredibly thorough report and your participation with the Upper Rattlesnake Neighborhood Council. Really appreciate your participation with local government.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your participation with local government.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much. All right, we look forward to hearing some updates on that. Great. All right. That wraps up our special presentations this evening, and so we'll move right into our public hearings. As noted, our public hearings this evening are all relative to the city's budget for fiscal year 25. And so we'll start this process by me providing an overview of the mayor's 25 budget, and then before we kick off the public hearing, answer any questions council may have, but then President Sherrill, I believe you're willing to read all motions on the floor when the time comes. And we can get all motions on the floor, and then that way we can have public comment on all motions and at one time, if that works for everybody else. Okay, great. All right, well, I'll go ahead and attempt to share the PowerPoint on my screen here. Let's see here. Just give me 1 second. I'm in the control tower here, let's see. Give me 1 second here. Let me start this slideshow over here. Thanks for your patience. Hi. Ms. Brown, for the record, Councilwoman Anderson is present.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, folks, looks like we're seeing that on the screen, okay? And we're in the meeting? All
Looks
right.
good here.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Good deal. All right. Well, this is my first budget as mayor of Missoula, so bear with me here. I'm hoping to not drone on for too long, and we went ahead and we put together some slides here just to help with the outline of the budget presentation, which is also memorialized in a letter. We just had it uploaded to the city website. That information will be made available to City Council. It'll be made available to the public on our city budget webpage. And it is available now for anybody to reference. I'm having a hard time. There we go. Okay, so I did want to start out with just a bit of a budget process because we changed it up a little bit this year. So in the spring and summer, all of our departments made budget presentations here in City Council chambers to various committees. Public comment was taken during those meetings, also via email, and then on our Engage Missoula site. During this time in July, we also did a strategic plan update for fiscal year 25 and 26. That information is also available on the city's website. Tonight, August 5th, is the presentation of the mayor's executive budget. It does begin the budget review and adoption phase of our budget process. So we're in a 2-week budget review and approval process. This coming Wednesday, August 7th, the committee budget presentation will be provided, and it'll be the first opportunity to consider council amendments. So we'll hear that at our, I think it's committee of the whole, if not budget, it might be budget and finance. Budget and finance, yeah, that makes more sense. And we'll have an opportunity there to also dig in more into the opportunity just to take a look at how our budget is structured and it relative to what percentage of the budget goes to certain departments and a number of other those things. It's a good educational opportunity. Monday night, August 12th, the public hearing will remain open. We'll provide any updates reflecting decisions in committees or changes to official numbers we receive from the State Department of Revenue. We did receive tax numbers today from the Department of Revenue, but I think we received 2 updates during the course of the day, so things do change from the DOR once they start to finalize those. Next Wednesday, so the 2 committee meetings in a row, that'll be the second committee session to review the budget again and consider council amendments. And then Monday night, August 19th, final changes or updates to the FY25 budget are presented. There'll be opportunity for public comment there. The hearing closes and council will vote to adopt the city's budget. So this information is all on our website, but we wanted to make sure that the members of the public understand ways that you can provide public comment. Public comment periods are available at all public meetings, so everything that I just mentioned, both in person and virtual. There are all project summary and comment tools on Engage Missoula. This is if you just look up Engage Missoula budget, 25 budget, you'll get to that page. And then there's also all of the city's department's detailed budget documents are located at this website here, and that is City of Missoula budget. And you'll get to not only the 25 preliminary budget, but all of our past approved budgets as well. And then comment options are available both on our comment page on the website, and you can call or email City Council, email the mayor's office, and then submit written comments. Submitting written comments, we'll take those right at the front desk at City Hall if you wish to drop them off that way. All right, so I wanted to provide an overview of preparing for the budget. It's actually quite a lengthy time period to get to this point. As you know, I was running for office, knew how important this budget discussion was for members of the public and council, knowing some of the challenges that we face as a community where we have increasing demands and requirements for delivering core services and a challenge with our revenue structure. This year, when we met with the team, I was set out a set of directives. One was that this is our last budget cycle for utilizing federal American Rescue Plan Act funds. For the last several years, this council has passed budgets that have been utilizing ARPA dollars, and for a few reasons. We have used these funds judiciously. During the pandemic, the city of Missoula did choose to freeze tax rates for a couple of years, and in ways able to use ARPA funds not only to pay for some existing services, but also newly expanded demands that the city had as a result of the pandemic. We're in a situation where I think this is no news to anybody. I inherited a pretty challenging budget structure. It's inheriting a budget deficit, quite frankly. I knew that coming into office, and it's been an area of focus that I intend to work on not only this fiscal year, but also going forward. And so we knew that we are spending our last ARPA dollars this year in FY25. And I asked the departments to project any changes in spending that they could take into account because of both the spend down of ARPA dollars and then thinking about how to reduce expenses as thoughtfully as possible. Knowing that we are in a period of we have lived through and still are in a period of intense inflation. Inflation still eats up the city's budget when it comes to any new revenue associated with new growth and our tax values. It's a reality that we are really still living with. So I asked the departments to find opportunities to save money on services and supplies, and one of the most significant places that we were able to find savings was a change in our workers' compensation provider. The city of Missoula is a founding member of the Montana Municipal Incorporated Association, MMIA, and we do receive our liability insurance through this association. This was not an easy decision. This is an organization that we have helped stand up. This is an organization that small cities and municipalities use around the state, and we do too. We had the opportunity, however, to save $700,000 in our workman's comp policy. That is a hard decision, and it was one that we had to make in order a better fiscal decision for the city of Missoula. So that's one of our cost savings that we have moved forward with. I asked all departments to scale back any new requests, and the department presentations that you saw were largely focused on what they need to maintain existing levels of service. And then to be very clear, if there were new requests, what were mandatory and then what were more wish list items. And then, cutting services in some areas as well. These are new requests that you did see. I did not approve some things. An example of that is in our Human Resource Department. Our Human Resource Department is a 5-member team. They support the entire city of Missoula. Currently, there are 900 employees with our Parks Department. They provide excellent service across every single department, and they need another human resource specialist. And it is an area in which that is a full-time employee that I did not approve in the mayor's budget, not because I don't think they need it or they, certainly that's an excellent service. It is just some of the hard decisions. It's just one of the many examples of hard decisions that we had to make going forward in order to keep our tax increase as low as possible. When we start out this process, we look at our previous year's ending balances, which is basically the cash we carry forward, and that's what we call our fund balance. And the city has a goal of maintaining about a 7% of our operating budget in a fund balance, which is basically a savings account. Just like any business or municipality or at home, when you have a savings account that more or less helps buoy against unforeseen circumstances. The city of Missoula has been spending that, has not been able to contribute to that fund balance in the last several years because of the reasons I just explained. So we have a fund balance that is manageable, but not one that is where it needs to be. We're at about half of where it should be. And it is an area that I'm working on trying to build back up. Any municipality, especially the one the size of Missoula, we bond for projects, especially infrastructure projects. And we are rated by a third-party rating agency. Where our fund balance or savings account is part of our our rating. So that is something that is a high priority. It's kind of a behind the scenes thing, but it is one of the things that we need to maintain and pay attention to, in terms of responsible fiduciaries. So again, this budget is really about meeting our most crucial needs and also continuing to innovate on our strategic plan. We talked about program inventories early on in the process, and so the way I think about the budget is, this is moving a large ship. This is a large organization. The City of Missoula is a large organization, and we are moving a ship here. To get to a place where we are doing more of a priority-based budget, we instituted a program inventory process. So that is where I asked every department to detail on one page for every single different program that they have in their department, to detail out a program inventory. That information was presented to you as council as part of department budgets, and that information is all on our city budget website for every department. These program inventories, they detail budget and strategic information about each city program. They add transparency to all the different programs that we provide the residents of the City of Missoula. And it allows us to examine and review all the activities along with the budget. It also aligns our budget with strategic goals. We are moving towards more of a priority-based budget, and these program inventories are not anything that draw like a very bright line from this decision was made from this program inventory to the budget. This is building information, I would say, as we continue to move forward, addressing our city budget structure. So, inflation and priorities are still outpacing new revenue, and we do have a persistent structural imbalance with our general fund. It will require ongoing service level evaluation and assessment of new revenue tools. So some of the strategies that I've put forward to fill the general fund budget gap are one-time savings. We're going to be asking the Missoula Redevelopment Agency for a remittance to the City of Missoula for $1.3 million. These dollars will be funding our core services. We are funding positions that had been funded in the past with American Rescue Plan funds. We'll be funding some of those same positions with our last ARPA funds. And then in 2024, Mayor Hess passed an emergency housing levy. That emergency housing levy allows the City of Missoula to add an additional 2 mills of funding. And in this case, this is for houseless emergencies. The way this works is this is a reimbursable basis. So this was an emergency levy that was passed in fiscal year 24, but this is basically my decision at this point to utilize these mills. It's a reimbursable basis, so it shows up in fiscal year 25. Fiscal year 25's budget will utilize these 2 mills, and what that will allow us to do is we'll utilize that funding to help fund the Johnson Street shelter. So it will be in alignment with the intention of this emergency levy. Again, this is to fund emergency shelter services in Missoula. Ongoing savings, I mentioned that we have our workers' compensation, a new provider, so nearly $750,000 annually, a substantial savings. And then I asked every single department for austerity measures, and there's a whole host of different measures that people have found equivalent to about $500,000 across the organization this year, and we're going to be continuing to look at this. As soon as this budget passes, we're going to be working on fiscal year 26 budget. So strategies for the future, like I mentioned, we're going to begin planning for fiscal year 26 starting this fall. We have a plan for work on the 2025 legislative session. So we will be working alongside our association with the League of Cities and Towns, as well as a lobbying firm that we've hired to take a look at different local government revenue reform. And then we'll be doing things that, again, not easy choices here, but we're going to need to be taking a look at assessing community-based organization funding, for example. So that, well, those will be suggestions and proposals that we'll be bringing forward as we move forward. So I do want to, though, step into what we are prioritizing. We are still getting an incredible amount done with all of the limitations that I just spoke about. So top of the list, voters approved the fire levy this June. And so we will be implementing the master fire plan. That is equivalent this fiscal year of $4.2 million. That allows us to add 20 new firefighters. And these are highlights. I'm not going to go through every single thing. We'll be able to permanently support the mobile support team, and we will begin planning for Station 6. There's also equipment purchases and some other things, and we also will address compensation for existing firefighters. I'm proposing that we have a digital communications initiative. It's $35,000, and this allows us to hire skilled consulting services to basically augment our existing communication strategies. And digital communications and social media require skill sets that focus entirely on that. And we have the opportunity here to leverage both data that we have seen, especially in these last several weeks. I can tell you that the number of folks depending on our social media has increased substantially. We want to meet people where they're at and communicate more effectively across multiple social media platforms. So that's something I'm very much excited to get underway, and I know the communications team is as well. The crisis camping ordinance, Ordinance 12.6, the implementation of new programs. As you saw from a new revenue presentation last week, we've taken a look at the feathering in, or basically the phasing in of two things. One, we have a baseline budget for encampment response right now, and that largely deals with cleanup and staffing of cleanup. That is still projected at $360,000 for fiscal year 25. But the new programs that are mandated as part of the ordinance, we are proposing to be able to move forward with new programs to implement vehicle permits and more toilets, garbage service, other hygiene services, and that includes syringe disposal, and then contracted services for $350,000. So we're looking at around $700,000. You saw that the staff presented a budget for about $1 million, and that's my budget is bringing down the new program budget in order to just meet what we know is a realistic way that we'll be standing up these positions, because we know we're not going to spend that much at the outset of fiscal year 25. So again, just trying to be incredibly conscientious of the new asks that we have in our budget. Johnson Street Emergency Shelter is a priority. We've heard this from our agencies and nonprofits that we work with, and it is, as you know, we do not have permanent funding for our Johnson Street Emergency Temporary Shelter. I can say that, not only throughout the winter, but even just the last few weeks, when the Poverillo Center lost power on West Broadway, Johnson Street was definitely utilized at a higher census rate. We're still at about 120 people a night, even during these summer months. So folks are definitely utilizing Johnson Street, and this 1.8 million represents a slight increase, about 100,000 from the budget last year. That additional dollars will be spent on some additional lockers, and we want to purchase purchase beds, particularly folks that are disabled and elderly that are staying in the Johnson Street shelter. Right now, people sleep on a cement floor, on a mat, and we know that's really challenging for a lot of people. We also know this is not a permanent location for this shelter, and so any of these amenities that we purchase can be moved to another location. Moving on. Southgate Crossing land acquisition. This is found in our capital improvement budget. This is the Missoula Redevelopment Agency's Urban Renewal District 3. These are the 10 acres that are located southwest of Bob Ward's. And this is currently in the due diligence period. We will be doing soil testing this week, in fact. So our phase 2 environmental site assessment is going forward this week. The purchase for all 10 acres is $6 million, and this is a key strategy for our community to be able to move both business and housing initiatives forward, and in partnership with the Missoula Redevelopment, in partnership with the Midtown Association to deploy the Midtown Association's master plan in that area. The other thing that I would note is that this is a key parcel to be able to move forward with the Transform Brooks project. The Transform Brooks project is, looking at transportation on demand land use, and we have the ability through the acquisition of this key parcel to be able to move that part of that project forward in partnership with Mountain Line. One of the priorities I wanted to mention here is that over the last couple of years, we've utilized ARPA funding to deploy a justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion program. Part of that was a staff member that helps partner with the counties, equity coordinator. There is a community board. Now we have a city and county joint board per the city council and county commissioners' direction. So this position has helped traditionally staff that board, and then also our larger community JEDI advisory activities. As we have taken on this work at the city, it has become clear, and largely through the program inventory work that we did, that the diversity, equity, and inclusion work that we do internally as a city can be handled by our human resource staff. And this position is really evolving into more of an inclusion focus in the Parks Department. So we are retitling it Community Experience and Culture position. It really is meeting people where they're at, helping people in Missoula be better included and easily access all of the city's services. So we have a parks, recreation, open space, and trails public process going on, and much of the community feedback that we have received from that process indicates that this kind of a position will help folks that, everyone from disabled children to folks that are aging in place and folks that are of every ethnicity and creed have the opportunity and feel welcome to connect with the city's services. In this budget, we do have, as I mentioned, we have a lobbying strategy to align with policy priorities such as tax reform, houselessness, Medicaid expansion. Oops, sorry about that. Let me see if I can go back. Oh, goodness. Oh, no! Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, back to our lobbying. We have a $73,800 set aside for a lobbying strategy. That's both interim work and during the session, and these are our key areas that we'll be working on to help meet a number of different city initiatives. I'm asking for some additional urban forest resources, and this budget total is $146,000 in the Parks District. And seems like this was a high priority before as we address our urban heat island impact and effect, but it seems like a real big priority now after living through and still being in an urban forest crisis, disaster, quite frankly. We're seeking police officers' market wage adjustments in this budget, and then we will continue and expand the crisis intervention team. We are hard code funding our crisis intervention team manager, and then we are deploying grant funds to expand that program. So the Community Investment Program, which is a 5-year planning document, and that the Community Investment Program are capital projects. We plan out 5 years in a row, and there are different criteria that help a capital investment land on the list. As we identify funding, whether that be grant sources, whether that be through Parks and Road District, whether that be through a revolving loan fund or a bond, any of those costs that are either on our operating budget and or that are being deployed in the current fiscal year, we make sure we highlight those. So in fiscal year 25, some of the highlights are continued work on the John Engen Local Government Building Rehab Project. There's $1.8 million that we have in several grant sources that we're going to be utilizing to continue to do initial rehab work on that building. Animal control shelter expansion, I wanted to mention that to you as council because you heard the health department present on this. And there is no funding in FY25, but on the capital improvement plan and program, which you approve, you'll see that we are starting to anticipate debt service because in FY25, the health department will want to move forward with bonding for this project and starting to take on debt service. So we are planning to start paying on the city's portion of that. The county will have its own portion of that because this is a city-county joint department, the health department. And so I want you to be prepared that that is something we are planning for. This year, we will continue the work that's part of the Bill grant out of the Sutomkin area, Mullen Road towards the airport. So George Elmer Drive, Mary Jane Boulevard, England Boulevard, that's equivalent to about $3.5 million of infrastructure work that we'll be working on in that area. Other street projects that are funded in FY25, and these aren't in totality, these are just highlights, and we hear quite a bit, both in this room, and I know you hear from your constituents. We're moving forward with the Orange Craig traffic signal. That's the traffic signal at on Orange Street Bridge, basically. Working on Scott Street Phase 1 and working on some of the traffic control mitigation issues in and near Scott Street Bridge, and then the Lower Miller Creek, that's supposed to say Creek Road, Linda Vista to Jack Drive. That project alone is $1.7 million. The Missoula Redevelopment Agency will continue various water projects and sidewalk projects in Urban Renewal District 2 and 3. And then that's equivalent to $2.2 million of infrastructure work. And then we also are looking forward to an alternative sidewalk materials pilot program. This will give us the opportunity to take a look at whether there is alternatives to concrete and ways in which we can expand our walking services and reduce cost to our residents, because we know that this is an ongoing conversation that we hear here in council chambers, and looking forward to see if there's some alternatives that we can put forward that still meet accessibility requirements and those things. In terms of our utilities, as you know, there is a whole project underway in partnership with Trout Unlimited and others to decommission several wilderness dams that no longer provide water to our water utility anymore. We do not use surface water from the Rattlesnake Creek wilderness to provide municipal water. We are entirely dependent on our aquifer for that. But when we acquired the water system, we acquired these wilderness dams. So we've been working in partnership with Trout Unlimited to decommission these dams and return more water flow to Rattlesnake Creek, thereby improving the fisheries in our area. So this is one of the commitments that we've made in terms of climate work and stewardship work that we're doing. So we will continue with that. We are doing a significant improvement to our compost facility to capture runoff and add air treatment. That's an $8 million project, and the funding sources are not right in front of me right now. But this is a really big deal. This will basically put hard surface underneath the compost facility, and like I said, it will address air treatment. We are in partnership with the county and others to do a library living roof, which is under our stormwater department. So by addressing a living roof on top of the library, we have an opportunity to filter our stormwater. We have the ability to cool the roof at the library, which will reduce operating costs. It will reduce a demand for air conditioning, for example. And then it will also provide more of a cooling effect for our urban heat effect. So this is an opportunity for us in the library, being a place of learning. This is an excellent opportunity for us to be able to deploy a pilot like this, and see how we might be able to do this with other flat roofs around the valley. We are adding at 8 to 10 of our water company at our pump houses, we are adding solar arrays, again furthering our commitment to reducing our carbon footprint and also reducing our dependency on fossil fuel electricity. So we are installing solar arrays. We're taking advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act. There's a real opportunity for cities to be able to receive benefit through the IRA, so we're continuing to move forward with that benefit. We are adding a second wastewater solar array to generate about 700,000 kilowatts per year. This is, again, we've utilized our past solar array project at the wastewater facility. We had to utilize a third party, I just lost the term, but it's basically an entity that can utilize tax credits. But the Inflation Reduction Act allows cities to benefit from direct funding. So it reduces our cost of this type of investment by 30%. The Parking Commission will be moving forward with, quite frankly, a reconstruction. It's a full reconstruction of the Bank Street parking structure. That parking structure has serious defects. It's been closed for some time, or parts of it, and so they will be moving forward with a reconstruction. They will be adding parking spaces for downtown Missoula. They'll also be doing beautification projects that include public art as part of that. The Parks Department will be moving forward with the Caris Park improvements and also the Clark Fork restoration projects. And then significantly, we're moving forward here with the White Pine Park relocation and development for this budget year. That's in connection with the Scott Street development that we're working on with the Rivara partners. We know that neighborhood is in severe need of a better park, and so this is definitely one that we're all psyched to see move forward. So lastly, I want to, this all wraps up into what our tax increase is. We have an estimated tax increase of 5.96%. This year, that includes our general fund, our road district, and our park district. The voters approved the fire levy in June, and that is equivalent to 11.08% tax increase. We did some math this afternoon just to make sure we understood what this means for the average tax assessed home in Missoula. This total tax for both of these, for a home that has an assessed value at $450,000, that is different than market value. When you see things talk about what the average sales price is, this is a taxable value is what is the January 22 assessed values that we all just got our tax rates. That was the basis of our tax change. At a value of $450,000, it is $307 per year. That includes the general fund, the road district. This is the increase. The general fund, the road district, the park district, and the fire levy. So all of that is about 85 cents a day in terms of what an average tax assessed home would be in Missoula. So That is a relatively fast and quick presentation. Again, this starts our public hearing process. And President Sherrill, do you want to take it away and get the motions on the floor before we hear questions?
Yeah, thanks. That was very thorough. I appreciate it. I do have one question before I read all of these. On 5.2, there are X's beside the dollar amounts, and I don't see that as any different online. So do we have a number?
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to look over to Chief Administrative Officer Dale Bickle to help with clarifying item 5.2 on the agenda.
Apologies, what's the question?
On 5.2, the recommendation that I'll be reading, the first recommended motion and the second, they're X's instead of a dollar amount on both online and on the copy that the paper copy. So I'm not sure. Hard to open a public hearing.
Yes, great question. We had to refer this item before our our preliminary numbers here. So if Lee has her hand up. I think she can provide those numbers for you right now.
Okay.
Thank you. I can pull up and look for the numbers, but I did just want to let council know that, as Dale said, we had to get this referral into the city clerk's office so that they could attach it to the agenda prior to getting our taxable value numbers, which allows us to do those calculations. And we will actually be presenting more detail on those numbers in the next Budget and Finance Committee this coming Wednesday and possibly the Wednesday after that. If you can give me just a moment, I'll come back and raise my hand with those estimated figures.
Great. And would you like me to just get started on the other ones until Lee's ready? Mayor?
I think so. That would be great.
Okay, and I'll go through all of them. Okay.
Please, thank you.
Okay, so there's a number of these. I recommend a resolution fixing the annual appropriations and the capital improvement program for the city of Missoula as set forth in the fiscal year 2025 budget and capital improvement program, including the Park District 1 work plan and budget for fiscal year 2025, the Road District 1 work plan and budget for fiscal year 2025, the Tourism Business Improvement District work plan and budget for fiscal year 2025, the Business Improvement District work plan and budget for fiscal year 2025, the permissive medical levy, employee health insurance levy for fiscal year 2025, excuse me, the Missoula Local Government Building Special District work plan and budget for fiscal year 2025. I'm going to skip the two that we're waiting on until I see Lee's hand up. So I'm going to go down to the third recommended motion in 5.2. I move that we adopt a resolution levying annual assessments on the hotels located in the Tourism Business Improvement District of the City of Missoula for fiscal year 2025 in the amount of $2 per occupied room night in accordance with 7-12-1132 MCA. I recommend we adopt a resolution levying taxes on the lots, pieces, and parcels of land located in the Downtown Business Improvement District of the City of Missoula in the amount of $425,375.52 for fiscal year 2025 in accordance with 7-12-1132 MCA. And Lee's hands up.
Thank you so much. We are estimating the assessments for the road district to be $10,317,007, and the assessments for the park district to be $10,105,060. And we will get those exhibits updated. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I also recommend that we adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Missoula, Montana, levying and assessing the lots and parcels within the City of Missoula Park District 1 in the amount of $10,105,060. Tell me if that's wrong. For the costs associated with providing certain maintenance, purchasing, and improving services for the fiscal year 2025 for city-owned facilities, land, and equipment under the responsibility and care of the City of Missoula Parks and Recreation Department, providing for a method of assessments, and providing for other matters properly related thereto. I also recommend, excuse me, adopting a resolution of the City Council of the City of Missoula, Montana, levying and assessing the lots and parcels within the City of Missoula Road District Number 1 in the amount of $10,317,007 for the costs associated with providing certain maintenance, purchasing, and improving services in fiscal year 2025 for city-owned facilities, land, and equipment under the responsibility and care of the City of Missoula Public Works and Mobility Department, Street Division, Cemetery and Engineering Division, Central Services Fleet Maintenance Division, providing for a method of assessments, and providing for other matters properly related thereto. 5.3, I recommend we adopt a resolution of the City of Missoula City Council increasing fees by 5% for the Parks and Recreation Master Fee Schedule effective January 1st, 2025. I recommend we adopt a resolution for the City of Missoula increasing fees by 7% for the Public Works Fee Schedule effective January 1st, 2025. I recommend we adopt a resolution for the Missoula City Council increasing business licensing, land use, and planning and engineering fees by 7% for the following services effective January 1, 2025. I don't have the following services. I recommend we approve a resolution levying the special assessment and tax on the lots, pieces, and parcels of land situated within the Street Maintenance District Number 1 of the City of Missoula, Montana, in the amount of $143,899.82 for the purpose of defraying the costs of street sweeping and removing garbage and recycling from streets and avenues in the district during fiscal year 2025. I recommend we approve a resolution for Missoula City Council levying and assessing a special assessment and tax on the lots, pieces, and parcels of land situated within the special lighting district of the City of Missoula, Montana, in the amount of $322,876.39 to defray the costs of street lighting and special lighting districts during the fiscal year 2025. And last but not least, I recommend a resolution levying taxes for municipal and administrative purposes for the fiscal year 2025. That's it.
Thank you very much, President Sherrill. Really appreciate going through all of that. Thank you. All motions are on the floor. This enables us to start the public hearing, and then public comment then can be in regards to any of these items. So with that, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing now. And I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and we will start then. All the motions are on the floor. We'll start with public comment. Sorry. Do you say Daniel has a question? I'm sorry. Was there something?
No, I'm sorry. I saw Dale's hand up, and I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
He took it down.
You all good?
I'll come back.
Yeah? Okay. All right. All right. Public comment on this agenda item. The public hearing is open. Come on up. We reserve 3 minutes for public comment. Please say your name and spell your last name, and I'll start a timer here and help you manage that 3 minutes. Any public comment in the room tonight? Hi. Come on up. Yeah, come on up.
Hi there. I'm Daisy Hargrave, D-A-I-S-Y-H-A-R-G-R-A-V-E. This is Emma. It's almost her bedtime. First and foremost, just want to say thank you to all of you working hard in local government. It's definitely a tireless job, but I appreciate you. Anyway, I'm here to give public comment on the current center. A little background, I just moved here with my husband and our daughter, we're in the fly fishing industry. We've been coming to Missoula for years for work. And we'd always dreamed of living here to raise our family, just seeing it as the community that had all of the outdoor amenities that we were looking for, but also the culture and, yeah, just a perfect blend of that. And so when we first moved here, we like almost immediately heard about the current center and we're super excited about it. Yeah, just looking forward to a way for us to feel like we could knit ourselves into the fabric of the community. And then also, you know, excited for our daughter to be able to have a place where she could, you know, have performances and also engage with the rest of the community. So anyway, I'll keep it short. I think that there are a lot of people that are like us that moved here and are in Missoula, you know, for things like this, of course, like everything that we can do outdoors. Again, you know, fly fishing, it's mecca for that. But Missoula is just so unique because it has, you know, everything that we were looking for. So anyway, I see it as a way to kind of invest in the future and something that, again, is super special. And I think a lot of people are kind of in the same boat as us. So that's all.
Thank you for coming and thank you for your comment, Ms. Hargrove. Appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great night.
You too. Come on up.
Evening, everyone. Derek Hitt, H-I-T-T. Live over there in Potter Park Lane. I had a quick question about the solar panels for the wastewater treatment. Will that actually be hooked up to a battery system where we would have a base load energy for after hours when the sun goes down? And if not, have we looked at other renewable energy sources for that area? Like, I don't know, geothermal maybe, because we are in a hotbed for that? Just a quick question for you guys. And then another comment, I know we're looking at budgets and everything, but one thing I know we often did in Yellowstone County that we don't do over here is when contractors come in, you have a 10-day grace period to start paying taxes and getting plates, Montana plates, for that county. If you didn't, it's a very big ticket. And we often enforce that heavily in Yellowstone. So just food for thought.
Thank you for your comment and your questions. Mr. Hitt, I will refer your questions to our Public Works Director, Jeremy Keene, who I know you know, and of course, as a member of the local unions have connection with, and we'll try to get you those answers going forward. You bet, absolutely. Any other public comment this evening? Any in the room?
My name is Chris Foster, F-O-S-T-E-R. I don't have anything on the specific details. I know you're still working that out, but I think this is a great time to bring up something for the future, and that's you mentioned revenue sources and looking at improved revenue sources, and I think that's going to be a critical need going forward. And I mean, we don't have to, you know, become Silicon Valley or anything like that, but we could look at ways to attract businesses, you know, maybe in the machine tool area, you know, stuff that's very much needed, you know, in the even in the trades area. But you know, looking at things like that could raise the median wage in this town without needing, you know, a PhD or advanced degrees. It just needs training. I think that would start a virtuous cycle that would help us fund things like the Johnson Street shelter, affordable housing. It seems to me that affordable housing is strongly correlated with our median wage, median household income in this town. So as the household income goes down, affordability goes down, and vice versa. So I would just encourage the city to look at that closely for the long term, because it would be very beneficial for us budget-wise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Thanks for your comments. Others in the room wish to make public comment tonight? All right, not seeing any in the room. How about online? Is there any public comment online? Ms. Brown, I don't see any. Do you?
I don't see anyone either.
All right. So not seeing any other public comment online, then that concludes public comment for this portion of the meeting, and we turn over to council comments. Council comments or questions? Is there any tonight? Councilor Carlino? Oh, I have Dale Bickle. Can I have you hold your comment for a quick moment while we get possibly some clarification from CAO Dale Bickle?
I can get my mic on. Thanks. Dale Bickle, Chief Administrative Officer. Just wanted a couple clarifying remarks after the mayor's presentation. One, our team has loaded new documents onto the budget website that we alluded to, but I'm going to specifically outline those. One is mayor's budget letter. It is a really far more detailed summary of what's in the budget that versus the presentation that was given. Our updated, what we call the new request and tax scenarios spreadsheet is up, and that shows specifically all of the new requests that council heard through the budget process, which of those were funded and which of those were not, and the funding sources associated with that. And also our comprehensive community investment program. That is a very large document showing all of our capital projects and really highlights what was funded in what is approved and funded for this particular fiscal year, FY25. I also want to point out there was a drafting error in the presentation I noticed related to police market adjustment. It listed an amount that was just $17,000. I think that was just a kind of a holdover from editing. That number is over $1 million, so that will be reflected in before this gets onto the website. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. I saw that and stumbled right through that update. Thank you very much for clarifying that, Mr. Bickle. Appreciate that. All right, so we've got folks that have their hands raised. If I can go through the order that hands are raised, that would be helpful. So, Councilman Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for that clarifying information, Mr. Bickle. I was just wondering, so I have several questions, but I'll try to limit myself to some of the basic head scratchers I have. First one, if someone could explain, perhaps Dale or Eric, what a remittance is in terms of, we're asking for $1.3 million for MRA remittance for our general operating budget. What is a remittance?
Dale Bickle, Chief Administrative Officer again. So there's a provision in Montana's urban renewal laws for the ability for agencies like the MRA to remit increment that has been collected for other purposes. So the city has used this in the past to do for various budget balancing tools, including last year's budget. And how that works is that the remittance is allocated to all of the taxing jurisdictions. So MRA has a certain amount of funds available. They will remit that based on the pro rata share of the mills levied in those districts. So for example, the city typically represents about 30% of the total taxes of a typical tax bill. So in order to get the 1.3 million that the mayor talked about in the presentation, it's about a $4.5 million total remittance that will go to city, county, school districts, Mountain Line Transit System, and state mills as well.
Thank you. So it sounds like, if I may follow up.
Please, go right ahead.
So there's a interest component to this then, as it's derived?
No, it's not an interest. There is no interest component or new debt issued because of it. This is a pro rata share of cash that is accumulated in districts. What what we believe at this point is that there isn't a change in MRA work plan related to this. If there are adequate resources to both fund this and do the short-term CIP, what it would do is it does lose an opportunity cost for longer projects in the future, and as we can, as the mill value and the increment values grow, that will be rebuilt. But at this point, we don't think there is a reduction in their work plan.
Thank you. And then a question in regards to J Street, the 1.8 million. My understanding was the County Commission was deliberating, possibly contributing roughly I'm just hearing this from media reports, roughly 900,000 towards J Street. So was this in addition to the 1.8 million, or would it be based on whatever numbers county comes up with?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Campbell. The County of Missoula is funding half of the 1.8 million, and their intention is to utilize their portion of the Missoula Redevelopment Agency remittance that you just heard Mr. Bickle explain. So as a process of the remittance process, the county will receive their portion, and then they will be able to utilize that to fund half of the Johnson Street contract.
I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You bet. Councillor Carlino.
Thanks. I think I've got 3 questions. The City Council passed the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Resolution 8440, which committed us an amount of no less than $100,000 annually towards the Affordable Housing Trust Fund from general fund dollars, it says. And I see that in the new request, there's $0 allocated right now. So I'm just curious, why there's $0 towards it, and how, City Council resolutions towards funding can affect the budget like this, or how that, cannot follow the resolution.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Councillor Carlino. I saw that too. The baseline budget requests that move forward are not listed on new requests. So that item that you would see there would be in addition to the $100,000 already in the community planning, development, and innovation department's budget. So the $100,000 that's required as part of the resolution and ordinance that you mentioned is in our base budget, and I can take a look at that and find that on the budget documents on our website if you need.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Sure.
So it's just the 100,000 minimum.
It's 100,000 that is currently budgeted per our ordinance, yeah.
And then you mentioned cutting organizations' fundings, like some of the partnerships that we have. I know, amounts to almost, quite a bit of money. I'm just wondering if we're cutting any of that in this administrative budget for this year.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. One of the things that I am putting forward is reducing the contract with Arts Missoula. And it is not because I don't support arts. In fact, I do, to the extent that I've added arts and culture as a element that I want to put some time and energy around in our strategic plan. Arts Missoula has been a long time partner of the City of Missoula, and they had a position change there where it was largely administering the Sister Cities program, which is something that we are taking a look at. How does the city, what is our role with public art? How are we effectively using our ordinance, our public art ordinance, and the administration of our Public Arts Committee? And then in addition, we've had this longstanding contract with Arts Missoula, and they were familiar with the fact that we would need to be taking a look at this in the coming years. So Councillor Becerra has been helpful in these conversations as well, being on their board and helping them understand that we did decrease their contract from approximately $200,000 to $100,000 for this budget year. The other change that we have is we're going to be taking a look at all of our community benefit organizations moving forward, but the other community benefit organization not currently in the mayor's budget is Partnership Health Center. They did not meet their funding request to us, nor did they draw down any of their fiscal year 24 funds. And So they submitted a letter to us, I think it was Friday, so it was 4 months late. And for us, we had to make some hard decisions, and I do believe they have close to a $50 million operating budget. So that $35,000 contract that we had, while seemingly can make a big difference for a small organization. We're assuming that since they didn't draw down those funds in fiscal year 24, it was not something, it was an area that we could save. We are literally looking at saving at that level in the general fund in particular. Those are the two community benefit organizations currently at this time that we've had to take a look at.
Thanks. And then I just had one more question.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I was just wondering, well, I guess just to preface it, I do really like a lot of things in this budget and appreciate the priority budget, but I was wondering if the administration looked into zero-based budgeting or or at least zero-based budgeting by department, like we've talked about a couple times.
Yeah, we did talk about that at a very large extent, and the reality of the amount of time and energy it would take for our departments to do that with our current workload. We weighed the pros and cons of that, and we believe a priority-based budget is actually the direction that will help us better prioritize our tax dollars to our strategic plan. And so I'm certainly open to taking a look at whether a zero-based budget per department and zeroing anything out and then building from there is a good use of our staff capacity. But for this fiscal year, I determined it was not. But certainly continuing to have that as an ongoing conversation. Yeah. Thank you for your questions. All right, Councilor Sherrill.
Oh, I thought, were you ahead of me, Sierra? Or?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you are. Councilor Farmer, I'm sorry about that.
Mine's really quick. I just have one quick clarifying question. So for the 5% increase for the Parks and Rec master fee schedule, I don't see that we included summer camps or after-school programs. Do we anticipate an increase to those programs as well? And I guess the reason I'm asking is more so because I know that the camps ran the day after the storm, and I was just really impressed by that. And I know that a lot of parents really rely on that program. So I'm just curious if we anticipate a fee increase for those programs or not.
A fee increase for our camp programs? I don't believe we have anybody from Parks on our meeting tonight. I would prefer that they are the ones that present on that.
And I can wait on that answer too if we don't answer.
If you don't mind, maybe we'll follow up on Wednesday on that particularly. Okay, that would be great.
I think we can answer that question.
Oh, please. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Ms. Griffin?
Hi, the schedule is attached. I do not recall the details, but I did want to let folks know we will be presenting on those fee increases in more detail this coming Wednesday in Budget and Finance, and we'll be able to have staff there to answer those questions in more detail. Thank you.
Thanks.
You bet, absolutely. Thank you. Councilor Sherrill.
Thanks. I'm a big fan of being in line, so just want to respect that. I first just want to, I guess, point out your comment about what a challenging revenue structure that we have. So knowing that and understanding inflation and the hard decisions that went into this budget, I appreciate it, and I really appreciate the keeping the tax increase under 6%. I can't remember exactly what it ended up being last year, but it was quite a bit more than that. And I know that that's a struggle, and I know that we have a lot of departments that have worked very hard on cutting what they can cut, and I know that you asked them to do that, and I appreciate everyone's work on that. Dale answered my question about police because that 17,000 number did not seem quite in line with my understanding. I guess my only question, I guess, is around the amendments. So I want to just quickly kind of go over how we're running this year. So this Wednesday at Budget and Finance, the 7th, I know that the mayor went over this, but I just want to pull it out because she had a lot of content. in her budget. We will start looking at amendments to this budget if there are any. I have sent the form, as has Claire, our city clerk, to all the council and requested those back quickly. We will start discussing those on the 7th. They are due on the 12th. The final, all of them, the final due date is the 12th, but we'll also be discussing those on Wednesday, the 14th. The reason I am outlining that is because I am curious, as we have uploaded the budget and the budget documents to engage Missoula, I'm curious what the plan will be for uploading amendments that we pass so people, the public, can track those amendments as we move forward. Is that something that we can have done? Is there a plan around that? I'm just curious.
Ms. Griffin, would you answer that question for us?
Yes, thank you. As council passes any of those amendments, we will post that information to the budget website.
Great. So then after, if we make any final decisions on any amendments on the 7th, they'll be posted after that. And then again, on the 14th, they would be posted after that. So I want those kind of on people's radars as they're looking at the budget. And I also would just like to do another reminder that we will be in budget deliberations after we do all of our amendments on the 19th. So that's our big night to pass the budget.
Thank you very much for your comments and questions. Councillor Anderson?
Oh, am I actually next? Okay, well, great. Madam President, I do believe that we have amendments due on Tuesday, the 13th at noon, in case anyone hears something in public comment on the 12th that causes them to want to submit a amendment to the budget. That's the order of operations that we did last year to allow for, 2 opportunities to have public comment and then be able to factor that in if it spurred on an amendment change or something.
So let me double check that. I had it as the 12th, but we're definitely seeing amendments in committee on the 14th as well.
Yes, but
so they were due on, I thought they were due on the 12th, but maybe they're due on the 13th.
Yeah, it gives an opportunity for if anyone gives public comment on the 12th that then causes a council member to want to respond to that with a budget amendment, that they have the time to do so. Basically.
I will, since the public won't be sending out budget amendments, but I will follow up with all of council on that and make sure that we know the date.
Fabulous. And then my original question why I raised my hand is, Dale, not that I want to create any more work for you, but I think it would be helpful, or I would love to see a little bit more on the presentation on Wednesday, kind of outlining the different buckets that some of the initiatives that the mayor laid out and how they fall. Just because, this is, I think, my 6th budget. I know several of these initiatives that she highlighted do not actually come out of the general fund, which is where the taxation, increase in taxes is going to come from, and then kind of how those different buckets are funded. I think that would be very helpful so that folks aren't concerned that the purchase of the 10 acres behind Bob Ward's is not coming from the general fund. But I think that would be helpful. If that is easy for you to do, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. Absolutely. Any other council questions or comments? Not seeing any. Stacie, your hand is still raised, but I think you're all done, right? Thank you. All righty. Looks like that wraps up our council questions and comments for the time being then. So this public hearing will remain open. There is not a vote tonight. You heard the process. We're in a several-week process, and again, we'll be back on Wednesday for taking a look at much more detail in regards to the budget. Anything else on this item? I'm just going to look over to Mr. Bickle. Anything else that I should be including? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for your questions. Looking forward to the dialogue over the next several weeks. And so that then does wrap up this agenda item. And so next we'll move on to our consent agenda for the evening. So Ms. Brown, would you go ahead and review the consent agenda for us and post it on screen for folks to see, please?
You bet. Just one second. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Starting with item 8.1, approve accounts payable claims for checks dated August 6th, 2024 in the amount of $866,825.54. Item 8.2, hazardous vegetation assessments for fiscal year 2024. The recommended motion is adopt a resolution levying a special assessment and tax upon property for annual weed assessments to reimburse the city for hazardous vegetation and nuisance weed cut orders performed in fiscal year 2024, totaling $993.50 pursuant to section 7-22-4101 Montana Code Annotated and section 8.40.040 Missoula Municipal Code. Item 8.3, Safe Streets and Roads for All, Reserve Street Safety Action Plan, Professional Services Contract. Recommended motion, authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement between the City of Missoula and Kittleson and Associates, Inc. Item 8.4, Amendment 1, Scott Street, Phase 1, Phillips Street to Turner Street. Recommended motion, approve and authorize the mayor to sign Amendment 1 to the Scott Street Professional Services Agreement with WGM Group, Inc. for the additional scope of services at a cost not to exceed $166,947.65. Item 8.5. This is the title correction item. Previously referenced Linda Vista supplement. It's been changed to 2512 Olafson Drive annexation. Recommended motion, adopt a resolution of intention to annex and incorporate within the boundaries of the City of Missoula a parcel of land described as Lot E of Orchard Homes, located in Section 19, Township 13 North, Range 19 West, Missoula County, Montana, PMM, Missoula County, Montana, as shown on Exhibit A, and Zone Lot E, C1-3, Neighborhood Commercial with Design Excellence Overlay, Corridor Type Topology 4, subject to conditions of annexation approval based on the findings of fact in the staff report, and is set a public hearing for August 26, 2024, and refer this item to the Land Use and Planning Committee on August 21st, 2024. Last item, item 8.6, is the rezone of 715 and 725 West Central Avenue, RM1-35 to B2-2 with a recommended motion. This is the first reading and preliminary adoption, setting a public hearing on August 26, 2024, and preliminarily adopt an ordinance to rezone the subject properties located at 725 West Central Avenue and 715 West Central Avenue, and legally described as lots 5 through 10 and the east one half of lot 11 and block 35 of Homevale Edition, located section 28, Township 13 North, Range 19 West, PMM, from RM1-35 residential multi-dwelling to B2-2 community business, and refer this item to the Land Use and Planning Committee for presentation and discussion on August 21st, 2024.
Great, thank you, Ms. Brown. And Councilor Vasecka, you have your hand raised. I do believe you wish to separate an item.
Yeah, I'd just like to vote on 8.2 separately, please.
Okay, great. And I saw from your note earlier, just wishing to vote on that, not necessarily speaking to it. We'll separate that item. Are there any other council members that wish to separate any consent agenda items? Not seeing any. All right, so Ms. Brown will go ahead with the vote on the consent agenda and vote on each item except 8.2. 8.2 we're going to separate. And I know I kind of go back and forth on this, but normally we do a voice vote on consent agenda. I think we can go ahead and do that, even though we have a separated item. Go right ahead, do a voice vote on that.
Taking a voice vote on the consent agenda with 8.2 separated. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes.
Okay. And now we have item 8.2, and I believe we can go ahead and still do a voice vote on 8.2 as well. No? No, I'm getting a, let's do a roll call vote on anything that's separated, please. Thank you.
Okay, taking a roll call vote on the motion to adopt a resolution levying a special assessment and tax upon property for annual weed assessments to reimburse the city for hazardous vegetation and nuisance weed cut orders performed in fiscal year 2024, totaling $993.50 pursuant to section 7-22-4101 Montana Code annotated and section 8.40.040 Missoula Municipal Code, starting with Stacie Anderson.
Yes.
Mirtha Becerra?
Yes.
Bob Campbell?
Yes.
Daniel Carlino?
Yes.
Sierra Farmer?
Yes.
Gwen Jones?
Yes.
Kirsten Jordan?
Yes.
Eric Melson?
Yes.
Mike Nugent?
Yes.
Jennifer Savage?
Yes.
Amber Sherrill?
Yes.
And Sandra Vasecka?
No.
That motion passes with 11 yes and 1 no vote.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I apologize, everyone. I forgot to ask for public comment on items on the consent agenda. So I would like to offer that opportunity now. If anybody has any public comment for items on the consent agenda, we would welcome those now. Not seeing any in the room. How about online? Mr. Larson?
We do have one online.
Okay, great. Mr. Larson, when you're ready, I'll go ahead and time you on this side. Can you unmute there, Mr. Larson? All right. Should be able to now?
Okay, now I can unmute. There you go. Matt Larson, Ward 3. Yeah, there were quite a few expenditures on the claims. XYZ Consulting for $50,000. There was a conference travel expenditure for $15,000. There was almost like, I believe, $35,000. Anyway, I emailed the council. I was just wondering if anybody found any information out about this stuff. Like, for instance, if we continue spending this much money on just miscellaneous office equipment and office supplies, it is almost $1.8 million per year. And like you said, if you're taking away partnership health's 35 grand, it just seems like, you know, the 35 grand that we spend on office equipment and paper clips and Post-it notes every week at the city might also justify scrutiny. But I was just wondering what that consulting charge was about, what they do for us as a city, and wondering, yeah, what the travel expenses for $15,000 were about. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Larson. If council members received those questions, we can certainly follow up with our budget director to get some specific information back to you. Second public comment, please. I see a Jamie Ehrbacher.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Davis. Jamie Ehrbacher with WGM Group. In question to item number 8.5, the annexation of Olafson Drive, we would like to have some further discussion with the staff regarding those conditions, and I just want to make sure that there is time to still amend those and what that appropriate time might be as we are having discussions with the city on those.
Ms. Earbacher, this item was a recommended motion to annex. I will ask the appropriate staff to follow up with you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. You bet. Thank you for your comment this evening and your question. Sorry. Mr. Nugent?
Thanks. Wednesday in land use and planning, we'll be talking about that, as well as next Monday night. So there is time to do amendments.
Thank you for that clarification. Ms. Earbacher, did you hear Mr. Nugent's clarification?
I did. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Nugent. Appreciate that. Other public comment on the consent agenda this evening? All right, not seeing any. Again, my apologies, folks. Thank you very much. Glad we did have some public comment there. That wraps up our consent agenda. Moving on to item number 9, which is our regular business council reports. We do have under committee reports, under the committee of the whole, we have item 9.1.CA, which is changes to council rules. So I would appreciate if Councilor Nugent, if you could give us a summary. I know that you've presented this item already in committee, but if you'd wish to give us a summary or provide any new information.
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor Davis. Appreciate it. I appreciate everybody being willing to give a week delay since the storms and stuff to not work on this. I heard from several folks and kind of enjoyed the conversation last week. I think I've come up with a few tweaks to the proposal that I think should make this palatable for hopefully everybody. So I'm going to put 3 amendments forward. I'd consider them a friendly amendment since I'm the sponsor. I've sent them to the clerk. The first amendment would be add to the attached draft rules 21A, any committee agenda item referral submitted to the clerk shall be published on the city website. The next change is add to the attached draft rules 21A.2, results of any scheduling poll conducted by a council chair shall be published on the city's website attached to the referral in question. And then finally, in regards to Rule 22, as drafted in the changes attached to the agenda, I would like to move that 4 back to 2 because I feel like the other changes we've discussed should address the efficiencies in the process, but I think still give some ability to address some of the concerns some of you referenced, and I would speak to all these when the time is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And so for clarification, those are all friendly amendments.
I mean, I'll take them as friendly since they're mine, but I guess people could object and we could vote on them all individually, but I don't think anybody's going to.
Okay, I'll look around the room. You have anybody have any objections to those friendly amendments? Okay, thank you, Councilor Nugent. Appreciate that. And now we've got council questions.
Sorry, online. I apologize, Mayor. Online, I do object to some of those.
Okay. All right, so then we'll go ahead and take a vote on each individual one.
Okay, are we able to ask questions first?
Yep, I was just moving on to those.
Thank you.
All right.
I do have a question when the time is right.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We are moving on at this point to council questions. Councilor Nugent?
Yeah, I think I'll have Mr. Sudbury check and see, since I'm the sponsor, if I'm changing it, if we need to vote or not, but either way. I don't know.
Thank you for that. Okay, pausing here for one moment.
makes the motions, we can talk about it, and she can make a motion to amend those things out, but he can move it to the floor as amended, as friendly.
The full motion.
The full motion.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Sudbury and Councillor Anderson. So Mr. Nugent, Councillor Nugent is the sponsor. He has accepted the friendly amendments. That means the main motion has been amended. So that means that then the main motion will be on the floor. And then Councillor Jordan, you can make an amendment to the main motion. Anybody else? Am I following the process there? Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so then I do believe we have a motion on the floor. Councillor Nugent, is that correct? Correct. Okay, so main motion is on the floor. And we will move to council questions. Councillor Jordan.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I disagree with this rule change wholeheartedly because I do think it limits the ability to hear different voices at the floor. But Mr. Nugent, I'm curious with the electronic vote, which I do wonder the legality of and definitely the ethics of. Will you be willing to publish how each person votes specifically rather than just a general yay and nay?
Yes, I believe that's my intent.
Okay, I just wanted on the public record that that's what that amendment is going to include so that people's names are attached to their vote and that will be public information. Is that correct?
I mean, that's what the amendment says, yeah.
No, it's not what the amendment says. It just says that the vote will be published. I just want to make sure that the names are attached to the vote.
Ms. Jordan, every vote that is published in our minutes has names attached to it, so I don't see why this would be any different. I'm happy to specify that. But.
That's great. Thank you. That's all I have. The only question I have.
Okay, thank you for your question, Councillor Jordan. Councillor Carlino?
Yeah, I was wondering, can we see the final draft that we're voting on? And then I have a couple other questions as well.
Did we have those amendments?
I mean, the clerk has the amendments, like she can put them on the screen. The rest of the draft is attached to the agenda tonight.
Yeah, the draft on the agenda doesn't have the amendments, so if we could pull it up on the screen, maybe that would make it to where we could know what we're voting on.
Ms. Brown?
Sure, give me a second.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
So the first amendment was to add to the attached draft rules, Rule 21A, any committee agenda item referral submitted to the clerk shall be published on the city website. The next amendment is a motion to add to the attached draft rules, Rule 21A, 2. Results of any scheduling poll conducted by a council chair shall be published on the city website attached to the referral in question. And the third amendment, Rule 22, replace 4 with 2 in the following paragraph. In the event an item of business duly submitted has been considered in accordance with the placing items on the agenda rule and remains eligible for council discussion but has not been discussed by that committee within 6 weeks of its submission date, the petition of 4 members of the committee shall activate the item for discussion at the next committee meeting. A tabled item cannot be activated using this rule.
And Councillor Nugent, this is what I do believe you accepted a friendly amendment from 4 to 2, is that right?
Yeah, that's what I put up there. Yep.
Okay. All right, yeah, Councillor Carlino?
Yeah, and then I just had one other question. Looking at the Rule 21A2, where it says, electronically poll all council members asking if there is sufficient interest in the topic prior to staff preparing for a committee discussion. The committee chair shall email the referral to all council members individually and ask if they would like the referral scheduled by simply responding yes or no. And then it goes on to talk about what a yes vote means and what a no vote means. And my question is, I mean, right now we do all of our votes publicly at these public meetings, and I'm wondering if you're worried about transparency, government transparency being lost by doing these electronic votes.
I believe I've answered this question each time that we've discussed it, but I'm happy to answer it again. I'm not, especially now with these amendments where the votes will be published on the city's website. Every legislative body has scheduling decisions. You look at the state legislature and there are 150,000 or whatever it is bill drafts submitted, and they do not all hit the floor. Decisions are made on how to get there. But this process, especially with keeping the ability to blast at 2, only clarifies process and gives every council member clear tools, but does not change the ability for 2 members to blast something and get it heard in committee.
Okay, thank you for your response. And Councillor Jordan, your hand's raised.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just wondering, could we see the friendly amendment again that talks about publishing the votes?
Ms. Brown, would you mind sharing it on screen?
Let me pull that up.
Thank you.
1 second.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to motion that be reworded to state that each vote will be noted per person rather than a poll. I know we just agreed to it here, but I want to see that the actual friendly amendment states that the votes will be published by person rather than just generally.
Okay, so that sounds like there is, Councillor Jordan, is an amendment to the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would you be able to submit that to me via email so that I have the correct wording, please?
Yeah, can you just scroll back up again and let me see the wording? Thank you.
You bet.
Mayor, depending on the wording, that could maybe be friendly amendment depending on the wording, but our emails are public record, so I don't actually know that the extra specificity is needed, because the only way the poll can be conducted per the rules would be email, and those emails are all public record. So the information
Mr. Nugent,
pretty easy.
Respectfully push back. You're speaking on behalf of what I think is important, and I don't think that the way it's worded is adequate, and I want to see it be more specific and state that each specific vote will be on the public record.
Councillor Jordan, I appreciate your comment for clarification, but I would appreciate you to please follow the rules and decorum of the procedure here. Are you proposing an amendment, and are you sending that via email?
I am proposing an amendment, and I'm sending that via email. I just have a teeny tiny computer, and I can't see all my screens at once, so I apologize for the hassle.
Thank you for sending that to Ms. Brown and to council as well. Thank you very much. The amendment will be on the floor. And so I see your hand raised, Councillor Vasecka. And so I'm going to wait until we have this amendment proposed until we move forward with additional council comment, if that's okay. One step at a time here, otherwise I get myself confused. So I'll get myself confused. Sandy, do you have a question on the amendment?
I just had a question on what Councillor Nugent said. I heard and we can discuss this later too, but regarding our emails being public, there was a constituent that mentioned one time that they aren't anymore. I was just hoping we can get some clarification on that, since it went to a form instead of the all council email.
Okay, you're more than welcome to. We'll get that clarified while we're waiting for the language.
Ms. Vasecka, I'm happy to respond to that as I know. I think what your constituent is referring to is previously the emails that went to the all council web email address all got batch published online. Honestly, I know at one point when we switched to the forms, we discussed that they could still be. I don't know if they are or not, but your specific emails aren't published online, but anybody could request them at any time. So I would think that the easiest, it's public record, so somebody could easily email the clerk and say, I would like the results of this email sent from the committee chair to these individuals, and they would get it in short order, because it's, but maybe somebody on staff can correct me, but that's my understanding of the process.
You are correct. Emails that are sent to city council still do remain public documents, and those are per the request of the public. So the public has an opportunity to request emails as they are a public document. For clarification, there was a time when the city of Missoula was sharing emails that were provided to or sent to city council and hosted on our website. That became, first of all, it's not required by law, and so it became an administrative burden to be able to maintain that. And so those are the kinds of things that we have trimmed out in order to make sure that we can just basically maintain what's required by law, which again, all emails are public and people can request them. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Hallstrom?
No, thank you. For the record, Eric Hallstrom, the city's Chief Operations Officer. And just to sort of reiterate what Councilmember Nugent was saying, documents that are public are not always hosted proactively, but are accessible to the public if they are requested. So it's accurate to say that those emails are public even if they're not proactively hosted on the website.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. All right, Ms. Brown, do we have the amendment language from Councilor Jordan?
We do.
Would you like to go ahead and share that on your screen, please?
Yes, one second. Ms. Jordan, proposed results of any scheduling poll conducted by a council chair shall be published on the city website attached to the referral in question, including each city council member's specific vote for each poll.
Councilor Nugent, do you accept that as a friendly amendment?
I 100% accept it as a friendly amendment because I think that it just states what already would be happening. So happy to accept it as a friendly amendment.
Okay, that has been accepted as a friendly amendment. All right. Back to the main motion. Main motion has been amended, and we're still in council questions. Thank you. Council questions on the main motion. Any more in the room here? Okay, not seeing any. And any other council questions online? All right. Not seeing any then. Ms. Brown, I know we have to take a tech break. I'm hoping that we can make it through this agenda item here. We're gonna go for it. I know, we're gonna go for public comment before we go back to any parliamentary debate by council. So public comment on this agenda item. Welcome anybody in the room up to the microphone, please. Not seeing anybody in the room wishing to make public comment. And online, Mr. Larson, I see your hands raised. Go right ahead.
Matt Larson, 1-3. There's a few things in this rule changes that limit public accessibility to the information. For instance, uploading stuff 24 hours before the public meeting. It's hard enough getting the agendas on a Friday and reviewing the information before Monday meetings. I don't see how it's going to be possible with uploading stuff 24 hours before a meeting. Those those rule changes in specific, I think or that one in specific, I think is a little bit troublesome at the very least. And yeah, it's alarming what the city considers public information when one requests it. So I'd be interested to see what happens when somebody requests those emails, and how long it would take the city to provide those emails. But I guess that's neither here nor there. It would be nice to see the city's collective emails published and their replies, because I don't think it's too onerous of a task, but it's just text, you know, and that's what I think about that. There's various rule changes concerning majorities being, or certain numbers of counselors being needed to even bring a matter forth. This is a transparency and accessibility to government issue as well. I think the rule changes in general aren't really needed, in at least the ones that I've brought up here. I think that they need to be retooled a little bit. Definitely would like to see who responds per these polls, you know, on a per name basis. And so, you know, thank you for Councilor Jordan for bringing out that detail. I do think that that's very important. And it would be pretty easy to publish this stuff, I think, on the website, and is just kind of a matter of transparency and just kind of civic duty to the citizens.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Larson. You're at 3 minutes. Are there any other comments online in regards to this agenda item from members of the public?
I don't see any.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brown. That concludes public comment on this agenda item. We'll now move back to council comments and parliamentary debate. And I see Councilor Farmer, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to comment really quick on this. First, I wanted to say to Mr. Nugent, thank you for being willing to have some tough conversations and have some compromise in this rule. I will be supporting this because I actually see this a little differently. I think that by putting out the polling, I think it actually makes it more transparent and takes away some of the power and decision making from the chair and gives it back to the body. And I think it's important that we make those votes transparent and put them online along with every resolution that's drafted so that we can see what's being brought forth in front of the chairs, and that we can all help make that decision on what we hear. So I actually think that this is actually a more democratic process than what we have right now. And I also thank you for continuing to keep it at 2 members to blast it. I think that that is a reasonable compromise, seeing as we haven't really had to utilize that in the past yet. So I think with those amendments, I'm happy to support it.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Farmer. Councilor Vasecka.
Thanks. I'm still against this for the reasons that I've stated before, but I do feel a little bit better with these amendments. So I wanted to thank Councilor Nugent for being open to those amendments, although I'm still going to be against this and as a whole. I'm still standing by all the arguments I had about it in the past, but I did want to mention that there has been a colleague of mine that has mentioned to me that they were happy that something was brought to the floor, even though that they had to be against it on the record. They were very happy that the discussion happened in the public eye. And so there was a lot of things, a lot of controversial items that I feel like this rule change will prevent from having those hard and tough discussions on the floor, because a lot of folks, even though we are in that position where we have to have those tough conversations, this does allow for an easy way out to not have tough conversations on controversial topics on the floor. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm against this, and especially being as part of a minority on this council for the entire time that I've been on this council, I do feel like I do have a great rapport with my colleagues. I'm just really concerned for those controversial topics, and I'm also concerned for future councils to be able to get those topics on the floor. So I do appreciate the amendments. I'm still against this, and I hope that at least 5 of my colleagues will be against this as well. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Vasecka. Councilor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I appreciate Councilman Nugent's work on trying to make this more attainable from a standpoint of being able to still let council do the work they need to do while at the same time maintain the public interest, while at the same time make sure everyone on council has a voice to bring something forward. But just fundamentally, I still have concerns that aren't swayed by these amendments. Number one, just the idea of, and we talk about, the amount of time we're spending in committee week after week after week, and it varies. I mean, some committees are over and done with. Last week they were done with by lunch. Sometimes they go 5 in the afternoon, but this is part of what we signed up for, is doing that hard work. I don't know that we've reached a point quite yet that we need to go to this extent to limit dialogue, limit the freedom of speech that each counselor has to bring things forward before the body, before a committee, to the extent that this would have us do. I think it's, at this point, still, a solution in search of a problem to a degree. I think we're looking at taking a vote on something here that will create a convenience for us on council, particularly on committee Wednesdays, at the expense of the folks in the audience here being able to, hear from around the table all the ideas and all the measures, all the resolutions, all the proposals that we have in mind to bring them to the floor here and for the general public to be able to hear, to be able to deliberate on, to be able to give their input on. I think it's convenience for us at the expense of convenience for those folks. And now they're going to have to jump through some extra hoops to get the information they need for anything that's brought up. And if it doesn't pass this roll call vote, the onus is on them now to look for this information, even more so than it is now. So, and the other thing I think too, I think back to your predecessor on council, and he had a hard time bringing anything before committee to any degree during his tenure on council here, because he was alone ideologically for a number of years. And it's a shame that he definitely had a role to play on council for sure, but that his voice was in large degree frankly silenced when it came to collaborating with council and getting things brought forward. And it was a shame that I think this still creates a situation where we could have that possibility in some future council down the line. It doesn't look so bad now, but I think down the line you could find yourselves, or we could find ourselves, different folks on council from different ideological standpoints that are not part of the mainstream of thought here in council, could have a hard time having their voices heard. So for those reasons, I'll also be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Campbell. This is abnormal in that normally we take a break when we need to do a tech rollover for our recording, but we're right in the middle of this agenda item, so I'm going to ask folks to stay tight. We are not going to formally pause the meeting, and Ms. Brown is going to go ahead and stop the recording and restart it, because one of the things that we do for the public is we make sure that we have full recordings of all of our meetings, and we make sure that we stay on time and make those available. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Enjoy this commercial interlude.
Thank you, Mayor Davis.
Why?
He talked.
think he knew writing on the wall pretty quick once he got on.
Okay, I think we're ready whenever you are.
All right, that's fantastic. You're very expedient, Ms. Brown. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next council comment, which is President Sherrill.
Yeah, thanks. First, I want to thank my ward mate, Mr. Nugent, for working on these rules. There's a lot more in it than just what we are discussing. And we've been talking about this for a bit, and I just appreciate him taking the reins on this and moving this forward. You know, so when I got on council, I was almost immediately appointed as the chair of climate conservation and parks, because that is my background. So I have been a chair of a committee my entire tenure on council. My first reaction being the chair of that committee, I was like, wait a second, I'm deciding whether this comes to the floor or not, and I always thought that was such a strange system. And being a newbie on council, I really didn't even understand everything all the ordinances and things that we already had. So that never has sat quite right with me, that I was given that authority because I happened to be a chair. So I am really, you know, if someone could bring a resolution or a referral that says no yellow shirts on Tuesday, like we don't have to see everything if it doesn't make sense. I really like the idea, because I don't think it makes sense for one person to be making that decision for a body of 12. And as the council president, I can tell you, I spend a lot of time on the phone with people individually, and there are 11 people besides myself. There are a lot of us, right? Like there are a lot of us making decisions. I have never been comfortable and feel this way as the council president. I mean, I just made a decision that we are going to be taking amendments until the 13th, because that's a good idea. But even saying I've made this decision, you know, for a body of 12 always feels strange to me. So for the reasons that my colleague, Ms. Farmer, pointed out, and the fact that it is going to be an on-the-record poll, I'm absolutely 100% comfortable with my vote being public. I always have. I will defend any vote I've made. And that we are going to do a poll that I'm going to now ask people, do you guys want to see this? It's not councilperson Sherrill's decision to block or not block, so or hold off on things. So I think it's great. Mr. Nugent, I appreciate you for bringing the work you've done. I appreciate you listening to your colleagues. I know you've had lots of conversations and getting this to a place that people felt comfortable with it, but I will be supporting it, and I look forward to doing my first poll.
Thank you, Councilor Sherrill. Councilor Carlino.
Yeah, well, we seldom, ever work a full 8-hour day on committee days, and I think there's really plenty of time to hear policies and debate them and do the democratic process. And as this was originally written, I think this was really a threat to democracy by making it to where you'd have to have 4 or 6 council members just to get an item publicly heard. The voters of Missoula think that they are voting people in that can make policy, and they should be able to. People should be able to vote for people to represent them, and those people should be able to bring forward policy, and we have debates and discussion and votes. And as this was originally written, that was going to really curb that and really was a threat to democracy. As written now, I don't think it's nearly as bad by still allowing any 2 council members to bring an item forward if the committee chair decides to hold it up for 6 weeks. I guess there's really no point of even having committee chairs or having committees at this point. Every council member is a member of every committee, and having committee chairs decide what items can be heard or not just funnels the power to fewer and fewer people and allows less and less representation from the voters in town to be able to elect people to introduce policies for them. So I just think this is really a step in the wrong direction. And the electronic poll and doing council votes, no matter what it's on, having public officials vote on things electronically outside of these meetings is not transparent, and not as transparent as we could be, at least. And I don't think it's the right way to go at all. I think we should just schedule the items and let people represent their constituents. I guess finally, democracy is not supposed to be efficient. It's supposed to take time. It's supposed to take debate. It's supposed to be messy sometimes. And it's supposed to be able to happen publicly, allow people to come comment, allow people to elect people that can bring policies forward. And I'm tired of seeing things that the city and council members bring policies forward that are bringing us farther and farther away from a transparent, public, democratic process. And I see this as an example of one of those things. So it's way better than it was, but I'm definitely not in favor of doing electronic votes and some of the other nonsense in here.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Carlino and Councillor Becerra.
Thank you. I think both my ward mate and Councilwoman Sherrill have spoken to this, but I just want to add that this is not about limiting freedom of speech or silencing anyone. This is not even about this current council or past council members. This is about ensuring that no matter what the council composition is and who the chairs are, that we can have a democratic process where people can bring a proposal forward that has been thoroughly worked on. And by that, I mean, we as elected officials need to make policies for our things that are important to our constituents. But we need to do a few things, such as gain support from other council members, ensure that it's not going to cost the city a significant amount of money, which means that you need to work with different departments across the city. So if a council member wants to bring a proposal for no yellow shirts on Tuesday, but has done all that work, hey, I might just vote for it, or someone might find it worthy of our discussion and our time. But I think that this will ensure that as elected officials, we have a responsibility to our constituents to do the work to bring it forward so that it is a worthy item to discuss. I do think it's a more democratic process. I do think that it's more transparent. I do think it takes away that power and responsibility off of the chair, and it puts it out on the floor for everyone to vote on and for everyone in the public to see. So I want to thank Mr. Nugent for working on this and bringing it forward, and in a very democratic process now, we are going to vote for it. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Becerra and Councillor Anderson.
Thanks so much, Madam Mayor. I think that one important thing that we haven't really addressed here in our comments about this is the allocation of staff time. I have no problem being here until 4 in the morning because I'm a night owl. And I have a schedule that allows me to be here all day Wednesdays. I just have to work on the weekends. But we have to be respectful of our city staff and the expertise that they bring and working with them. And so I think that this is an effort to try to make sure that if everyone wants to wear a yellow shirt on Tuesdays, that we're not spending staff's time researching whether or not and how all of the implications of all of that goes into bringing that resolution forward. I want to thank Mr. Nugent for bringing this forward, to taking the time to have the conversations with other council members to see how we can come to a solution that the majority, or maybe the majority of us, will be able to support, because that's actually doing the work. That is how we represent our constituents, by engaging with the other people who are in decision-making positions to come up with something that can get passed. And I think there's been a lot of back and forth about, oh, the minority and the minority is not having its voice heard. I have been on council for 6 years and nobody has ever used the 2-person blast rule. So Obviously, and I don't think it was because any of them were wallflowers and didn't feel like they were wanting to. And at various points, at pretty much almost the entire time I've been on council, we've had a minority that is more than at least, or 2 or more at least. And I think that, you know, this is undemocratic. The Montana State Legislature every year changes how their rules are in terms of what it takes to blast something onto the floor. It's anywhere from 2/3 to 51%. This is 2 people, and they don't even have to be sponsors. They just have to agree that it's worth having the discussion on. And boy, oh boy, did we you know, the fact that we wanted to increase that to 4, once again, not sponsors, just people who are willing to have the discussion, and you still need to make sure that you can get to 7 votes to pass it. It is not necessarily that we are trying to limit how many hours that we're here on Wednesdays. We are trying to be as efficient, as effective as we possibly can in these roles. And I think that there's a real misunderstanding about like what it actually means to move legislation forward, what it means for representation, and how to be effective. This isn't the legislature. We are not, you know, basically sent here to put forward a whole bunch of bills to change various things or amend the budget or things like that. We are sent here to, you know, advocate for our values, the values that we put forward to our constituents, who then said, yeah, I agree with that, and I'm going to send that person there. You're not measured about how effective you are on this body by how many referrals that you bring, how, you know, it's how good of the, you know, the questions you ask, the substance that you provide, the amendments that you make. It is a lot more than just a quantitative number of like, oh, I brought so many referrals. And I think that we're missing the point of what it means to represent and advocate and be good stewards and fiscally responsible, which is what we all, I think, came here to try to do. So I think that Mr. Nugent has gotten a lot of grief that he did not deserve for trying to look at something differently and try to figure out how to be more efficient. I don't think it has anything to do with how much time we want to be here on Wednesdays, because you know, that's not my issue. My issue is making sure that we are as efficient because, as the mayor has pointed out, this is a very large ship, and to make change, you know, requires some work. You know, I haven't brought a lot of pieces of referrals or legislation changes before the body because that's not necessarily what I think an effective council member is. But everything that I have brought, I have had conversations with my colleagues before I brought it to the floor so that I was able to take suggestions. For example, the changes and having to do with regulating Airbnbs. One of the comments that I got from one of my colleagues basically made sure that then I went and followed up with the department head, that followed up with the attorney, that we had the right understanding so that when we brought it to the floor, we were able to ask those questions. That's not subverting democracy or trying to be like in, you know, behind the scenes in cahoots. It's being effective. And, you know, I can think of Ms. Becerra when she brought the vaping ordinance, all of the meetings that happened to bring that piece of legislation to a point where it was legal, compliant, and effective with all the various stakeholders. You just don't throw something out there and you know, hope that there's a discussion about it and that something good is going to come of that. It takes collaboration and work with your colleagues, and I think that this is trying to help guide us in that direction and bring more transparency. So I will be in support, and I just, you know, thank the sponsor for doing the hard work.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Anderson. And Councillor Jordan, your hand's raised.
Yeah, thank you for that. You know, I just wanted to clear up a couple things. One is that at the state level, any one legislator can bring policy forward and get a public hearing. So I think that we've kind of been confusing or misunderstanding how it works at the state level. And I just want to make it clear, again, any one person can bring something forward and get a public hearing. So when we're talking about 51% or a third, that is simply not true, and I got this from a state legislator. So we are, in effect, making it more arduous to bring something forward at the local level than it is at the state level. The other thing too, I know that Ms. Anderson had quite a bit to say about how this whole amendment, this whole process wasn't meant to shorten our Wednesdays, and that it's not about that, and that she's here to do the time, and I think we all are. But I wanted to state too that Mr. Nugent previously stated that one of the reasons he wanted to bring this forward was because our Wednesday meetings are getting too long. And if anybody wants me to find that on the video, I can do that. I think on some final thoughts, I just, again, think about my master's in public administration program. And there's a few of us on city council who did the same program, although some did it a while ago and some did it more recently. And perhaps the curriculum changed a little bit between that. But, you know, I did state already once that one thing that I learned in my MPA program is that representation matters. And as frustrating as perhaps Jesse Ramos was in the past, he represented people and he had the right, and he should have the right to bring things forward because he represents a certain constituency in this town that doesn't have a big voice. And, you know, I do recall when Sandy Vasecka was appointed, folks saying that Sandy represents people in this town and we need to have that representation on the body. And that was one of the reasons why a few of you voted for her. And so really thinking about how this is going to limit a minority faction or a minority person or somebody who has bigger ideas or stranger ideas from bringing things forward is a reality with this new rule change. And I think that that's disappointing because we already have a city council that doesn't look like the people it represents because of the way it's set up. And we already have made rule changes on city council that prevent people from providing public comment at a reasonable time for items not on the agenda. We've made it harder for people to provide comment through email. And when I say that, it's what I'm saying is that people are having a hard time figuring out the system and providing attachments. But also as a user, I can't go back and search my emails and say, gosh, I want to find that constituent who sent me the email about the water runoff on 6th Street. I can't search my emails anymore with the new setup like that. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong and have somebody point me in the right direction, but I can't search my emails anymore. The other thing I learned in my MPA program is that just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical. And I would argue that this is a case for that very thing where perhaps it's legal what we're doing, but is it ethical? There's a big difference between what's legal and what's ethical. And I would say that it isn't ethical to have people deciding what should and shouldn't be heard based on just a poll. We all represent people. We all ran on a platform. We all had things that we wanted to move forward as city councilors, and I think that this rule change is really going to inhibit that, and I think that's really sad, and it isn't ethical. And finally, you know, a quick definition of democracy. It's ruled by the people. It's not ruled by government. It's not ruled by elected officials. It's not ruled by staff in the city or the county or the state or at the federal level. It is ruled by the people. And this very rule change will make it harder for people to ask their representatives to bring things forward. And I just think it's a shame. And I will definitely be voting no on this tonight because of those reasons.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Jordan and Councillor Nugent.
Thanks, Mayor Davis. I do certainly have a few comments. I want to clear up one thing around, well, two things. One, the number of bill drafts the legislature compared to the number of hearings in the legislature do not match up. So there is a process, and legislators have to prioritize things. So there's limits on how many of those they get. Then the legislature is much better than we are as a body, and frankly, we maybe need to get better at this, at using the tools to end conversations. Tabling things, delaying consideration, basically something has to be acted on, but not every bill draft that gets submitted gets a hearing. That is a fact at the state legislature. So, you know, what that's going to be based on, I guess we all probably could pick different pieces and use, you know, get to the point we're trying to make. I also, with respect to a few of my colleagues, with the way this is amended now and keeping the 2-person blast, this is significantly more transparent than any process at the time I've been on council. Never before has any referral submitted to the clerk have to have been published on the website. So that right there is letting the public know, hey, Councilman so-and-so submitted something, how come it's not being asked? Then they can email other council members and you know, share their opinions, pressure it, do whatever. You know, how something is scheduled is significantly more transparent with these rules than it was before. Previously, the chair could just sit on something and not schedule it. And unless they chose to try to use the blast, which again has not happened, it didn't get there. So it's like, I understand the frustration around the idea of moving it from 2 to 4, and that's a conversation for another time. I'm happy with the way it ended up, and I actually don't have any problem with changing it back because of the other changes. But I completely disagree with some of the performative language being used tonight about how these changes are making it harder for constituents to bring something forward. No, it is putting onus on the members to be better at the jobs they were elected to do. And I too have a master's in public administration from the University of Montana, and I learned a lot in that program too, but one of those was you cannot get things done not working together. And it is a body of 12. You need 7 votes to get things done, so you need to work with people. And there is so much more to working with people than just having something heard on the floor. And if there is a concern from a constituent and a council member can't do a good job of communicating with other members as to why that matters, their constituents should replace them because they're not effective at their jobs. And I hate to be that blunt, but it's true. We don't get anywhere on a democratic body, which, again, going back to definitions, a majority rules on a democratic body. That's the definition. So all of these arguments saying that putting guidelines around how things get scheduled is somehow anti-democratic, I just don't agree with that. I don't at all agree that somehow the people who show up in the audience or the people who reach out to us aren't going to be as well served tomorrow than they are today because of these rules changed. In fact, I think they're going to be better served because, one, most of the things our constituents email us about aren't just oh, I'm going to solve this by bringing it to the floor. It's working with staff. It's talking to other people with experience. It's finding out, okay, what's the problem? What's the rationale? How did we get here? How do we solve it? And 2, if it really is something that needs to be changed, like updating a city ordinance, you need to work with other council members to actually be successful in that. And so if this puts the onus back on council members to actually try and put a coalition together and work on things and build them together, to me, that's democracy at its purest form. So I really do disagree with some of the things that are being stated out there. And I would just kind of end by saying, I think this is an example of how the system does work. You know, we put something out there, we talked about it. People came up with ideas, I accepted changes, and we're moving forward. And I think it's an example that even with everything that people like to say about this council and its current makeup, I actually think this is one of the more effective city councils that I've seen. This iteration of it right now in the last 6 months. And if you look at some of the stuff we've done and some of the stuff we've worked on, and I will be really surprised if there is actually a legitimately worthwhile idea that somebody brings forward that it would even have to get to the point where it needs to be blasted. But at the same time, if you are a council member and you bring an idea forward and it's half-baked or it's not ready or you didn't do the work to represent your constituents, the onus is on you. And if council starts to become better, like you've all pointed at the state legislature, if we start using the tools like the state legislature uses to table things that aren't ready because you didn't do your homework, that's not anti-democratic. That is you failing your constituents. Because that's where a lot of this comes from. And I understand there's different arguments on different sides, but the responsibility to be a good council member is more than just introducing something, saying, hey, I have an idea, hoping it goes your way, doing no work to get it done, having it fail, and then go talk to your constituents about how everybody else is terrible on council. The problem is that they don't know any better because people don't pay attention to council. But there are good council members and there are bad council members on every version of that, and that includes the one right now. And good council members build coalitions and work together.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Nugent. That wraps up our parliamentary debate. We will move on to a roll call vote on this agenda item. Ms. Brown, when you're ready. Wait, pause there for a second.
Yeah. It's an inverse because it came out of committee, sorry.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Pardon me, hold on one moment. Thank you very much. I thought we were approving. Oh, it was a do not recommend, a pass to update the rules. Okay, hold on one second. One moment, please.
So basically, yeah, I vote no to not, I don't uphold this one, I don't agree with this. I'm here for it.
Oh, it was a tie. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Apologies, I was not present at that committee meeting and I didn't do my homework to recognize that that was a tie vote. Thank you for the parliamentary clarification. Okay, so the recommended motion is a recommend do not pass because it was a tie vote. So this would be basically an inverse vote. If you are voting in support of the motion, that is then a vote to not see the amendments move forward. Is that correct? No. Wait, keep going. Okay.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So basically, I don't think this is correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sudbury. Please speak up.
It's a recommend do not pass, which is what came out of committee. But I think you should still just vote whether to pass the motion,
it's not
whether to not pass the do not pass and have a double negative. I mean, I think we're being overly technical on that. So we recognize that the committee said do not pass it. You still just need to vote on the motion.
All right, we received, that's okay, that's all right. We're just trying to make sure that we're following parliamentary rules. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. So we had clarification from City Attorney Sudbury that this was a tie vote, but it was not a no vote at council, correct? So that this is basically the motion would move forward in the affirmative at this point, that the affirmative would be for the rules amendments. As has been amended, correct?
Yes.
Correct. All right, I'm just going to look to the sponsor to make sure that we're all in agreement on this. Okay, excellent. So then we will move forward then with the recommended motion, which is to update the rules, and of course, as we've reviewed this evening via friendly amendments of Missoula City Council as drafted and presented by Councilor Nugent and the City Clerk. And so, Ms. Brown, let's do a roll call vote.
Taking a roll call vote on the motion that the mayor just read, starting with Stacie Anderson.
Yes.
Mirtha Becerra.
Yes.
Bob Campbell.
No.
Daniel Carlino.
No.
Sierra Farmer.
Yes.
Gwen Jones.
Yes.
Krista Jordan.
No.
Eric Melson.
Yes.
Mike Nugent.
Yes.
Jennifer Savage.
Yes.
Amber Sherrill.
Yes.
Sandra Vasecka.
No.
No.
That motion, sorry, it's processing.
Ms. Brown, I'm sorry. I think you clarified that motion passes with a majority vote, a super majority.
Yes, I believe it does pass. The system's updating, sorry.
We had two folks tracking by hand, myself and Councillor Anderson, as well as a backup, and we also concur that there were 8 affirmative votes for no, and so that vote does pass. But you are the person in the control tower back there. I want to make sure that that's what you have on your system.
That is my recollection. My system is processing. I don't have a result at the moment.
Okay. Well, this isn't a presidential election. It was 8 in favor and 4-0. I can confirm for the public. All right. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate the robust discussion. And that concludes our item 9.1C. We do have another regular business item under council reports tonight, and that's item 9.1F in the Public Safety, Health, and Operations, or PSHOC committee, as we call it. And so I'll turn to Chair Anderson on this, please.
Thanks so much, Madam Mayor, and I want to give a special thanks to Vice Chair Vasecka for running the committee meeting last week and taking care of these interviews. So we have a small change. You may notice that there are 3 slots on here, but last week you were only told that you were filling 2 slots. Well, we've had a resignation from somebody on the board, and so we were actually able to fill 3 slots. So the recommended motion is to approve Virginia Harris, Jamie, oh my goodness, I'm gonna screw this up, Breidenbach, thank you, and Alex Brown to the Food Policy Advisory Board as a regular members. Wait, sorry. 2 of them are regular and 1 of them is an alternate. Shoot, okay. I don't remember which one's which here.
I don't know either, but I'll help look here.
Jamie Breidenbach was moved to be the first regular member with the term ending on December 31st, 2024. Virginia Harris was the alternate 2 member with the term ending December 31st, 2024. And the new term was for Alex Brown, which is a term ending December 31st, 2025 as a regular member.
Thank you so much. So just to clarify, Alex Brown and Virginia Harris will be voted on as regular members with terms beginning immediately and ending December 31st, 2024. And Jamie Breidenbach will be put forth as an alternative to slot number 2 member with a term beginning immediately and ending on December 31st, 2024.
Virginia Harris would actually be the alternate 2. Jamie Breidenbach would be alternate 1 with the term ending 2024.
What she said.
Okay, sounds like we have 2 alternates and 1 regular that are being appointed to this committee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, I can see why that's confusing. All right, so we have that recommended motion coming forward to for the Food Policy Advisory Board Committee. That's a summary of the staff presentation or the council members' presentation. Are there any questions from council on this? Not seeing any in the room here or online. All right, and so Councillor Anderson, the motion is made. Sorry, I'm kind of going out of order here, but we would offer public comment on this agenda item if there's any members of the public in the audience that would like to make public comment on these appointees. Not seeing any in the room. Any online? Not seeing any online. Any other questions or comments from council? Not seeing any? All right, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on this agenda item, please, Ms. Brown.
Moving to appoint J.B. Breidenbach to the Food Policy Advisory Board as a regular member for the term beginning immediately and ending on December 31st, starting with Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Melson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Vasecka.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. And just to clarify, did you do the recommended motion on the first applicant, Virginia Harris? Or all 3 recommended motions? Okay, what we heard here is just a recommended motion on the first. What I am asking, we just had a consensus vote on that applicant. if it would be all right for there to take the other two as a package, if that would be appropriate, if I'm not seeing any concerns from council members, and to go ahead and do a voice vote on that.
Taking a voice vote on moving to appoint Virginia Harris to the Food Policy Advisory Board as an alternate 2 member for the term beginning immediately and ending on December 31st, 2024. And moving to appoint Alexandra Brown to the Food Policy Advisory Board as a regular member for the term beginning immediately and ending on December 31st, 2025. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. And all opposed, nay?
Great.
Both of those passed. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. No, that was a little bit out of the ordinary, but appreciate that. Congratulations to all those folks, and much appreciation for service on the Food Policy Advisory Board. All right, that wraps up then regular council business on agenda item number 9, and we do move on now to public comment on non-agenda items. We'll start with folks in the room here, and again, 3 minutes. Please say your name and spell your last name. I'll go ahead and keep time for you up here. Come on up.
Big K Spitzmacher, Spitzmacher. Well, I can honestly tell you I had my first threat of bodily injury Saturday evening across from the library. I do feel as though this individual specifically pointed me out as he was walking across the street from the other side, which would be the old library. One guy went between the Methodist church and he continued down the library. I had my headphones on. I wasn't paying attention to him. But what he was saying was threatening as the other person that heard it. But her realizing of it wasn't quite as well as I'd like. The fact of the matter is, I do feel as though there is a consensus at the Poverello that my life is being threatened and oversighted by the management of that facility for the ruckus I've been creating for that facility, how it's not ran right. So I did a police report. And what was more so offending is the advocacy of being assaulted by another individual of the circumstances that I don't want to get in details of. And as far as the deal of Africanism, I have not been back to the Poverello in the evening when these woke individuals feel as though Africa is a racist word. I've never heard of it. A lot of people that I share it with in public find it really. And I'd like to find out why these individuals that have it in for me creating the word Africa as a racist word, and I shared it with another important individual of the community of a church, and he found it to be alarming also. My question is, who is advocating to the problems of the Poverello, of the circumstances, how it is ran by management and with the rubber stamp of a board of directors? And I've discovered somebody that's very reputable that are keeping track of the problems that good quality people get stiffed for circumstances, and their circumstances are being overridden by a doctor, and the Poverello says, we don't care.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Spitzmacher. Other members of the public wishing to make public comment tonight?
Evening, everyone. Derek Hitt, H-I-T-T. Mayor, council members, longtime listener, first-time complainer. So, as you know, I am the president of the Missoula Central Labor Council, where I get to represent roughly about 8,000 members of the working class here in Missoula. A couple of those members have brought up a bit of a concern to me to bring up to you guys. They're a little concerned about the city using grizzly waste for the majority of the parks. As you know, the city has a 0 to 50 policy, And with using Grizzly, you kind of currently blown that out of the water because Grizzly has to bring their waste over to either Helena or Deer Lodge. And on average, and this is with wind being aerodynamic and everything, you're wasting about 100 gallons of diesel per trip. And just wanted to bring that up. And also that they don't have a recycling program. They currently have cardboard and waste. So that's kind of like thoughts and prayers. Just wanted to bring that part up. And we could do better than that. We should be able to have a recycling program for our parks where we can recycle aluminum, glass, and so forth at those parks. And I just want to bring that up. We are going to have a recycling bin at the Labor Day picnic on the 2nd at the fort. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Hitt. Others wishing to make public comment this evening? Ms. Bellin, hello.
Hello. Madam Mayor and dedicated councilors, my name's Carol Bellin. I live in Ward 3. I come here tonight, which marks almost to the hour, 79 years ago, what is now known as Hiroshima Day. Today, I'm bringing to you a request that over the course of the next year, you discuss, and hopefully someone will find a sponsorship for some municipal resolutions, some draft resolutions that I am bringing to you. And when I'm finished speaking, I hope I can pass these out.
You can hand those to the officer and they'll make sure the council members get them, you bet.
The first one was passed by the United States Conference of Mayors last month at their meeting, the imperative of dialogue in a time of acute nuclear dangers. And the second one is an excellent resolution that was passed last Wednesday by the Tacoma Park, Maryland City Council, along with over 80 other municipalities in the U.S. And finally, I have a letter for background information from the Union of Concerned Scientists that was signed by over 800 scientists. I first came to Montana in 1984, and I lived in Conrad on a farm next to one of Montana's nuclear weapons, Romeo 29, a Minuteman Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, or ICBM, that at the time carried 3 nuclear warheads, each one delivering 20 times the destructive power of the bomb that we dropped on the civilian population of Hiroshima 79 years ago today, actually about 4 hours ago. If you can imagine, those who weren't incinerated, that were surviving, would just be climbing out of this disaster. Thanks to international treaties, the New START Treaty, Romeo 29 is no more, decommissioned along with 50 other of Montana's nuclear weapons. Also, thanks to the treaty, each missile was reduced to carrying only 1 nuclear warhead instead of 3. However, Montana now is at the center of a brand new nuclear arms race that places our beautiful landscape at ground zero, target number 1, and is siphoning our federal budget away from desperately needed funding for human services. One of the main purposes of the very vulnerable stationary land-based weapons is to actually draw the fire and deplete an enemy's arsenal when the enemy tries to destroy our ICBMs before we can launch them. In this way, Montana is relegated to being a nuclear sponge, drawing the target away from our big cities. Let us hope that an incoming missile doesn't miss its target and land in the Yellowstone caldera.
That marks your 3 minutes there, Ms. Bellin.
Can I finish one more sentence, or?
If you're in the middle of a sentence, we can go ahead and have you wrap up.
Okay, I'll stop there.
Okay, if there's any comments that you wish to continue to provide to council, please do submit your comments, and then you can provide any documents you wish to leave with the officer, and he'll make sure that they get them.
And who do I leave these with?
Right, the gentleman right behind you right there. Thank you, Ms. Bellin. All right, any other public comment this evening on items not on the agenda?
Good evening. Akhilesh Bemler, spelled Boehmler. Probably could have spoken earlier to this. It's related to the budget. I am wondering, and I might have missed it because I've been awfully busy myself, but the temporary Johnson Street Center, how temporary is this exactly, is my question. Seems that we are keeping it very untemporary, and it is not benefiting in the way that maybe you have heard it has. The populace there is being preyed upon. The neighbors and other businesses there are suffering because of the existence of the Johnson Street Center. I fail to see the worth of its existence in its entirety at this point. And any funding or continued budgets going towards this place is going to negatively affect the citizens. We could be tightening our budget and assisting them. However, bolstering the Johnson Street Center, I really want you to consider nixing it entirely as an option and really going by the original intent of a temporary shelter. If you look at other cities, Portland, San Francisco, et cetera, the more money and the more services you put towards this homeless issue, it does not make it go away, it makes it continue. It becomes a draw. People will be sent here. You will be ending up having the citizens of this town funding out-of-state interests, possibly predators. So please do consider the depth and possibility of entirely getting rid of this center. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comments this evening. Are there others in the audience that wish to make public comment on items not on the agenda? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Linda Wolf. I live out in Ranch Club. Gwen, I just want to tell you thank you for all your hard work on the marijuana stuff. She's a hero to a lot of us. And I just want to remind everybody to keep it in the forefront of your minds that there's still a lot of work that has to be done with weed and the control of some of that THC, the high THC that it is right now. You know, there's so much that you guys have already done. I know we're also thankful for some of the things that are going on. But you know, that doesn't take, it's the THC. It is the THC, the high THC that's really hurting our kids' brains. And my girlfriend's daughter just went to the ER, you know, just the other day because she thought she was going to die after smoking weed. It had really high THC. It was dabbing, and that's what a lot of them do. It's still a big problem, and I know that the police know it. I know the ER docs know it. I know a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists that know it. It's becoming really well known how much it's hurting the kids. So I just wanted to keep it in the forefront of your minds to be thinking about more work that we have to do. And you know, if there's anything, you know, that we, you know, I'm working with some other women too, and we're trying so hard to try to we're not trying to get rid of the THC, or we're not trying to get rid of the weed. We're just trying to get the THC level down because that's what's hurting these kids' brains. So Kobe and I did a Dr. Phil's show. We ended up doing it. I don't know if you got a chance to see that yet, Gwen, but I'm going to send you guys all a link to it. It's a really good show, and Kobe did awesome. I was really proud of him. It was really emotional, really hard for him. But, you know, the other family that was there on the show with us, their son committed suicide, and he was the same age as Kobe. And he, same age, same thing, everything, almost identical. But he committed suicide, which happens. And I'm going to send you guys all a link to that. So I hope that you guys will keep an eye out for that. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments and sharing the Dr. Phil show. All right. Any other members of the public wishing to make public comment tonight on items not on the agenda? Any in the audience tonight? Okay, how about online? Is there any members of the public wishing to make public comment? I don't see any online. All right. So that wraps up our public comment on non-agenda items. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll move on to communications from the mayor. I did want to just mention that there is quite a bit of information on our shelter initiatives on the Engage Missoula website. So again, if you go Engage Missoula and then type in shelter initiatives, quite a bit of information there. But also there's like 2 city websites. Engage Missoula is a way to actually engage, where it's a specific platform. We're seeking feedback from the members of the public. You can register if you wish. You don't have to, but you can provide comment on there. And also, there's a lot of information on our city website as well. It does talk quite a bit about the different houseless programs that we have at the city of Missoula, the partnerships that we have in the community, and some of the national trends and things like that, but relative to the Johnson Street shelter. I just wanted to publicly thank our staff. I failed to do that when I spoke about the budget earlier, and my brain is really full right now, so I apologize. I feel like I've been a little bit sloppy tonight. I just have such a great amount of appreciation for the level of expertise, and this is like I mentioned, it's a big ship. I very much appreciate the staff support and their expertise and helping me learn the breadth and depth of this city budget. So I very much appreciate working alongside this group of dedicated public servants. Lastly, I just wanted to mention, I know other people will as well, that we had the opportunity to celebrate together the reopening of the North Side pedestrian bridge. This is a really significant piece of infrastructure in the city of Missoula. It was built sometime around 2001, 2002, but it's been closed for 2 years because of some very serious repair needs. And that neighborhood has become reasonably and reliant on the ability to get over railroad tracks to get over to the rest of the community. It was really wonderful to see people coming together, and some of the early folks in our community that helped get that bridge built. Jeff Badnock with the Missoula Redevelopment Agency was there. Linda Tracy, who was a council member at the time, so more than 20 years ago. And Bob Oakes, who's now retired from North Missoula Community Development Corporation, amongst several council members and members of the public that were there, as well as our city staff. Lots of kids and dogs blowing bubbles and having a good time. And it was one of those moments where I left there, walked downtown, admired Dorothy the Dragon painted on the Dorothy building, if you haven't had a chance to see that yet, and then cruised through our farmer's market and bought some flowers. And it was one of those magical Missoula moments that I feel so lucky to live in this community and, of course, have the honor of being mayor. So it's just something I wanted to share with you all. It was a really great Saturday. All right, that's all my comments, and I will pass this on now to council members wishing to share comments. And Mr. Carlino, I'll look to you first. Okay, thank you. Councilor Campbell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll pass as well.
Okay. Councilor Jones? Okay. Councilor Anderson?
I'll just quickly point out, first of all, thank you again to city staff for all the amazing work that has been going on in the wake of the storm, and that I do believe we sent out a press release today saying that city staff from Parks and Public Works will be working through to help kind of clean up additional neighborhoods. I know that some of them were hit very hard, and people have been trying to do what they can, and neighbors have been helping, and it just really shows the spirit of Missoula. But I'm glad to see that we will be able to give a helping hand from the city, knowing that it's a lot of work still ahead of us. But I'm glad to see that, and just continue to be grateful for our staff and first responders and for community members stepping up and looking out for one another.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Councilor Farmer?
Thanks. I just wanted to echo your comments about the North Side, West Side pedestrian bridge. It was a nice Saturday morning, and special thanks to Melissa Glukart, I think is how you say her last name, for waking up early on a Saturday, having coffee and scones, and making sure that we all had something to eat. And it was a really amazing Saturday for me as well. Walking over the bridge, I ran into, I think, at least half a dozen of my neighbors who were out and excited and just so happy to be able to feel more connected to downtown. And I just appreciate staff putting it on and prioritizing that event.
Thank you very much. And I mean, having huckleberry ice cream in the morning is a real benefit. That was great. Councilor Nugent.
Well, I was going to pass because I'm sorry I missed the huckleberry ice cream.
Yes.
So
Thank you. Councillor Savage.
Yes, I just wanted to echo the celebration about the pedestrian bridge. I posted a similar comment on my Instagram, so forgive me for sort of reading it, but I remember when it failed and when they closed the bridge, and I think it was October of 2022, and I went to then Mayor Jordan Hess, and I was like, Jordan, we have to fix this, and he said, I know, and he made it his #1 infrastructure priority for the city, and I am eternally grateful, and so is the North Side. That bridge is a lifeline. A neighbor said that to me on Saturday morning, and it's so true. So many of our kids have learned to bike and crash into the railings as you're spinning down. And I ran across it the other day, and I sent a video to all the council chairs, which I'm sure they very much appreciated, because I was just so excited that it was open again. But a special shout out to Jordan Hess, and a special shout out to you, Mayor, for continuing to just carry the mantle when you came into office. And I'd also just like to thank the Office of Neighborhoods, the North Missoula Community Development Corporation, and of course Bob Oakes, because without Bob there would be no bridge to celebrate, but the North Side is thrilled, and we thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comments. Councillor Melson.
I'm just going to jump in line and add my words of thanks to everyone at the Parks Department and at Public Works, NMD, CDC, the Northside neighborhood, everyone that's been involved in that bridge. It is a monumental moment to have it reopened. And I was away this weekend and wasn't able to join you guys reopening the bridge and the celebration of the reopening of the bridge, but I did get to ride over it today.
Oh, cool.
And relive some of my earliest memories in Missoula, spiraling down that concrete monster. As I lived in the North Side when I first moved here, and I would commute over that thing every single day, rain, sleet, snow, or shine, all winter long to downtown. And now everyone in the North Side can enjoy that trip as well. So big thanks to everyone who's involved. The project is gorgeous, by the way. The bridge is, yeah, it's better than it ever has been. So
It's true, it's new and improved. Thank you, Councillor Melson. Councillor Sherrill.
I'm going to pass, thanks.
Okay, you bet. How about council members online? Anybody wishing to share comments? Councillor Vasecka.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to quickly mention that there has been a lot of talk with the presidential election and just elections in general about America being a democracy. And I usually refer to one of my pocket constitutions to find a historical, definition of what our country is. However, I did find a better and more succinct definition from the U.S. Embassy in Argentina. So I'm just going to read that definition on their website real quick. While often categorized as a democracy, the United States is more accurately defined as a constitutional federal republic. What does this mean? Constitutional refers to the fact that government in the United States is based on a constitution, which is the supreme law of the United States. The Constitution not only provides the framework for how the federal and state governments are structured, but also places significant limits on their powers. Federal means that there is both a national government and governments of the 50 states. A republic is a form of government in which the people hold power, but elect representatives to exercise that power. So, I just wanted to remind folks that we are a representative republic, constitutional representative republic, and it's everybody's duty as a citizen to, I guess it's not their duty. I see it as a duty to vote in elections and to take their vote very seriously. And if you or any of your friends are not registered to vote, please do that. There's an election coming up in November. Don't know if you all know. And if anybody does not have a constitution, then there's ones readily available online. But if anybody wants a pocket constitution and doesn't know how to get one, please reach out to me and I will try to find one for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vasecka. Councillor Becerra.
Thank you. I too want to add my gratitude to everyone who worked on the North Side, West Side pedestrian bridge reopening and to all my colleagues who voted in support of making that happen. I too have, memories from pushing a stroller over that thing, which is no easy thing to do. It's pretty steep going from the west side to the north side on an almost daily basis. So I know how important it is for a lot of people on both sides of that bridge. So very happy that it opened. I also want to say thank you to Team Rubicon. They have been doing a lot of work in Missoula, and thank you to United Way and all the sponsors for helping make all that help to the neighbors in Missoula happen. So thanks.
All right. Great. Thank you for your comments. I'm not seeing any other hands raised online. And so, Councilor Jordan, you're good? All right. Okay. All right. Well, then that wraps up our general comments from City Council members. I will go ahead and adjourn this evening's meeting at 8:58 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate your time and energy. Thank you.